Yo, what up? Timotheos, High Priest of the Temple Divine, spiritual states of consciousness, spiritual states of consciousness, higher states of awareness, seek the sacred wisdom, spiritual intentions, spiritual states of consciousness, higher states of awareness, seek the sacred wisdom, spiritual intentions. Spiritual states of consciousness, I'm astral traveling through the universe, cosmic flow I'm transmitting. I'm flowing through the unseen matter, yeah, it's hidden. I'm one with the divine mind, yeah, I can feel it. Purify my mind, stays higher than the ceiling. Medicinal plants and natural remedies for the healing. I go back to the ancient ways, organic physicians. Doing the instant meditation, study metaphysics. Mind in the astral plane, yeah, no limits. Rise to the mic, I'm spitting. Flowing through the space zone, yeah, I'm whipping. Mix up the oceans, the nectar of life, we sipping. Spiritual states of consciousness, higher states of awareness. Seek the sacred wisdom, spiritual intentions. Seek the sacred inner wisdom. Realize your higher self manifested in a vision. Seek the sacred inner wisdom. Realize your higher self manifested in a vision. Seek the sacred inner wisdom. Realize your higher self manifested in a vision. Seek the sacred inner wisdom. Realize your higher self manifested in a vision. Let the higher self speak through you like a sound system. The ancient ones are back. The gods have arisen. Realize your higher self. Become the ruler of your kingdom. Sit and meditate. Own sound. Take a listen. Psychoactive plants activate my nervous system. Allow me to realize that I am the solar system. All I'm trying to do is seek the sacred inner wisdom. Wisdom flows through me, flowing through me, nervous system. Union with the absolute, in tune with the rhythm. Realize who you truly are, in tune with your spirit. Spiritual state of consciousness, yeah, no limit. Spiritual state of consciousness, highest state of awareness. Seek the sacred wisdom, spiritual intentions. Spiritual states of consciousness, higher states of awareness. Seek the sacred wisdom, spiritual intentions. Seek the sacred inner wisdom. Realize your higher self, manifest the inner vision. Seek the sacred inner wisdom. Realize. Peace. Greetings, everyone. We're back with another video. See, get the camera going right here. This is Timotheos here, and we got Elijah Akwesi back here. Another video.
Peace. How y'all doing out there? Hey, can you see my screen?
Yes, we see it, bro.
Okay. So yeah,
it's still on full screen.
It's still on. Hold on, let me put it on full screen.
And we can see the presentation we're going to be getting into. We're going into part 2 of the inner child healing and the 12 principles of cultivation. And we appreciate those of you guys who have viewed the first video, part 1, and so we're going to be going into part 2 in the cultivation of self, and specifically in the metaphysical understanding. And also, I'd like to say thank you guys for posting certain questions. We got some questions we're going to respond to. And also, we have a really good presentation started for you guys. And guys, we prepared this stuff. So, we appreciate those of you guys who tune in and ready for the broadcast. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Anything you want to say, brother?
I just want to say, man, it's going to be a powerful breakdown from both of us. You know, like brother said, we prepared this, so this is gonna be a very, very deep and inspiring lecture from the both of us. And
Yep.
I'm ready to get started.
Okay. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please write it down in the comments. And we have the question box open. If you click one of the links that brings you to the Google Hangouts, you can ask questions there. And also you can ask questions on our Facebook, Temple of Divine, search Temple of Divine, and it should come up, and we're there. So ask your questions, post your comments, and we'll get started with that too. We would also like people to call in, so we're waiting to get a number and certain start a radio show kind of. So you guys be ready and be prepared for what we got coming for you guys. So without further ado, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and get started. And like I said, post your questions and comments. We greatly appreciate those, and we'll get them answered probably near the end of this video, and we'll do a quick question and answer. Uh, so without further ado, let's go ahead.
All right, once again, we back. Peace. And what this topic is going to be about is healing the soul and spiritual illness. For a lot of us here that are raising our consciousness and getting to another level, and we are actually experiencing certain things that happen to our, that's happening to our physical body. So we're gonna get into that, and we're gonna get into the study of what the unconscious mind actually really is. So here we go. Just want to let everybody know out there that this presentation is also Temple of Divine University of Metaphysics. The high priest of the Temple of Divine, which is Timotheos and Elijah Akwesi. So make sure you support. Make sure you support. Temple of Divine.
Yeah, much support is appreciated, and also if you guys want to donate, we will have options for that too. But for the meantime, we're just presenting this information, and so personally, I'm here to present information, not to intellectualize or converse about a specific subject pertaining to cultivation, metaphysical practices, magic, and the things of the like. I'm basically here to understand the accessing part of the spiritual realm rather than to bring these basic concepts and principles, at an intellectual point. Rather, I want to bring them in a sense of a practical sense and principles for the mind and for personal use, for individual cultivation and practices. So this is not information to hurrah or debate over in the overly dramatic or scientific realm. Rather, it is to be taken in and cultivated inwardly and added to personal pre-existing understandings and spiritual realization. So that is my main concern there. So everyone will receive this information at their own pace, and this is about individual cultivation. So some things I present or Elijah may present may be something that may represent or resonate with you, but not others, or vice versa, or it may not resonate with you at all. So my job is not to persuade or convince or to gain or take sides. I'm just here to bring the information forward and to enhance what is already there. There will have been a change in the state of consciousness, so therefore there will be a change of behavior. So if this resonates with you, then I'm greatly appreciated to share this information forward. So you ready to go, bro?
Well, yeah. Can you see the presentation?
Yeah, I see the basic outline of it. You gotta press that share the presentation.
Oh, I gotta share it.
Yeah, it's already shared full screen, but you just gotta press the show presentation button. I believe that's what it is.
Where is that?
So you can see it full screen.
Oh, it's not full screen?
You can see the other slides on the side.
Still?
Yeah, it should be show. I'm not sure on that program, but it should be like um, show the presentation or play the presentation.
All right, how about now?
It's loading.
Try to. Can you go to the YouTube link to see if it's showing up on there? Oh, you know, it's not. Man, what am I doing? Hold on. I think I know what I have to do.
Yeah, go to the first slide and hit that first thing up there. I think it says start from the beginning.
All right, let me see if I can see that.
I think it says.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me? Bro, you got cut off, bro?
Yeah, I got cut off. But okay, so did you get it? You should go to let's see. Um, yeah, go to okay, you're on slideshow. Now go to um the first one.
This one?
Yeah.
Can you see that?
It's not full screen like how it was. I'm not sure why. um like when you first showed me it was full screen. But we can see it, we can see the slide.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here.
Unclick from share screen and then reshare the screen. Try that.
All right.
It got technical difficulties here, but we're working on it, and in the meantime, we're dealing with the cultivation of self. So we appreciate those who are, tuning in and ready to receive this information, and you know, we're ready to give our presentations, and
Is it full screen now?
yep, it's full screen now.
All right, here we go. Healing the soul and spiritual illness. This is what the presentation is, and this is Temple of Divine University of Metaphysics. It says understanding the unconscious mind. Unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is defined as the part of the mind which gives rise to the collection of mental phenomena that manifest in a person's mind, but which the person is not aware of at the time of their occurrence. These phenomena include unconscious feelings, unconscious or automatic skills, unnoticed perceptions, unconscious thoughts, unconscious habits and automatic reactions, complexes, hidden phobias, and concealed desires. So now, as we see that um, a lot of these things are, that, for example, you ever had an experience where um, you kind of knew something, but you didn't know it, and you just automatically knew what to do. So this is a result of the unconscious mind. And a lot of times, if you want to get, really technical and metaphysical, this means that you're tapping into the things that you used to do in your past lives. Because of course, we already know that we live multiple lives, not just this one, because the awareness has been experiencing things from since the very beginning of creation. So now it says unnoticed perceptions, unconscious thoughts, unconscious habits, and automatic reactions, complexes, hidden phobias, and concealed desires. The unconscious mind has been seen as the source of night dreams and automatic thoughts. Um, it can be seen as representatory of memories that have been forgotten, but that may nevertheless be accessible to the conscious at some later time. Um, it can be seen as the locus of implanted knowledge, i.e., all the things that we have learned so well that we do them without thinking. So you ever realize that, okay, so you do things a lot of times without even thinking about it. Like, oh, I didn't even think about it, and I just actually, I got the hang of it. So it's like those things that just click in your mind on what to do, how to do it, but you don't know because you never done it before. But nevertheless, you still know deep into your unconscious. So you ever had anyone that you know, or even yourself, that you have a fear, but you don't know what's the origin of this fear? You have a phobia, but you don't know, okay, was I born with it? So innately, you recognize, or innately you have this hidden fear that carried on from your past life. Did they call it past life regression? So it says a familiar example of the operation of the unconscious is the phenomena which one thinks about some problem, cannot find a solution, but wakes up one morning with a new idea that unlocks the problem. It says observers throughout history have argued that there are influences on consciousness from other parts of the mind. These observers differ in the use of related terms, including unconscious as a personal habit, being aware, unaware, and intuition. Terms related to semi-consciousness included awakening, impotent memory, the subconscious, subliminal messages, trance, hypo, hypo, hypnagogia, and hypnosis. Although sleep and sleepwalking, dreaming, and delirium and coma may signal the presence of the unconscious processes, these processes are not the unconscious mind. Science is in its infancy of exploring the limits of consciousness. So again, they're trying to understand the consciousness through the modern science are trying to understand consciousness through the lens of a conscious realm, but you can't measure consciousness. It just always will be the same thing as the source. You can't measure or give a date or a time on the source. It has always been in existence. Likewise in consciousness. Consciousness has always been in existence with the with this divine thought, or what we call um, the hidden, which would be in ancient Kemet, the hidden, or I think it's Amun Ra. So you cannot measure the beginning of consciousness. But when you're studying in the lens of science, they're trying to find out exactly where, or how did consciousness begin. But metaphysically, we know that it has no root beginning of its origin. And we just know that has always been here. So now, with that being said, when you tapping into the unconscious mind, notice how the unconscious mind is kind of like when you're watching a movie and you see a projector screen. So your mind is that projector screen of what you thinking in the unconscious realm. Even when you're in hypnosis, this unconscious mind is also it deals with the subliminal programming. So if you're watching a movie, and the movie, of course, all movies and TV shows have subliminal messages in them, you're picking up that subconscious images of what it's really saying behind the scenes. So then you might have a dream about it and don't realize, let's just say, for example, you're watching a scary movie. You're watching Jason or Freddy Krueger. Okay, this can play back in your unconscious mind, and you might see yourself being chased by Freddy Krueger. You see what I'm saying? So, not in the sense of these things is still they're not real, but they're real because they manifest themselves inside of your mind. So it looks real to you. It's like a movie. So just like you watch a movie, you have to decode your unconscious mind. So now, unconscious. Farad divided the mind into the into the conscious mind, or the ego, and the unconscious mind. The later was then further divided into the ID, or instincts, or drive, and the superego, or consequence. In this theory, the unconscious refers to the mental process in which individuals make themselves unaware. So as you can see on this picture here, you have consciousness, which is the planning, willpower, create critical thinking, short-term memory, judgments and decisions, long-term. Oh yeah, not long-term, but the unconscious is long-term memory, protection, emotions, creativity, cellular memory, and automatic body functions, and habits and patterns. So as you can see, the conscious mind has little influence on you, but nevertheless, the unconscious has a lot more influence on you. So now we finna get into the deeper aspects of the mind, on where and what happens when the mind triggers, or makes certain triggers due to the spiritual changes within you. So here we are in a psychogenic pain. So it says psychogenic pain, also called psychogenia, is physical pain that is caused, increased, or prolonged by mental, emotional, or behavior factors. Now this is all dealing with the unconscious mind, because in the back of your unconscious mind, you can have certain behavioral problems that can trigger certain sicknesses due to the brain. So now we're going to break this thing down and show you exactly what's going on in the psyche every time you have an emotional or um, mental or emotional or behavior issue. So it says headache, back pain, or stomach pain are some of the most common factors in psychogenic pain. It may occur rarely in a person's with a mental disorder, but more commonly it accompanies or it is indicated by social rejection, broken heart, grief, love sickness, or some other emotional events. Sufferers are often stigmatized because both medical professionals and general public tend to think that pain from psychological source is not real. So as you can see, the doctors that you go to today are not trained on understanding the aspect or in the realm of emotional pain leads to um, the physical pain. They just give you the symptoms due to they just give you symptoms due to what is the result of the emotional pain. So you still go unhealed, but nevertheless, it's like a temporary fix. You see what I'm saying? It's kind of like if I get your car and you want me to fix your engine, I just put duct tape on it and say, here, it started, so it works. That still is not fixing the problem because what's gonna happen? It's gonna still break down either way. But it's gonna break down slowly. So now it says, however, specialists consider that it is no less actual or hurtful than pain from other sources. It says the International Association for the Study of Pain defines pain as unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage or described in terms of such damage, emphasis added. And then note accompanying that definition, the following can be found about pain that happens for um, um, psychological reasons. Many people report pain from the absence of tissue damage or any likely pathological issue, pathological causes. Usually this happens for um, psych, um, psychological reasons. There is usually no way to distinguish their experience from that due to tissue damage. If we take the subjective report, if they regard their experience as pain, and if they report it in the same ways as pain caused by tissue damage, it should be accepted as pain. Again, medicine refers also to the psychogenic pain or psychogenia as a form of chronic pain under the name of present somatoform pain disorder. So as you can see, without even hold on, let me continue reading because it's some stuff that I need to highlight in here. It says psychosocial problems. Hold on. Let me go back. Let me go back to um under the name of pre- persistent somatoform pain disorder or um, functional pain syndrome. Causes may be linked to stress. Causes may be linked to stress. Again, causes may be linked to stress. Unexpressed emotional conflicts, psychosocial problems, or various mental disorders. So as you can see, so as a result, this is what we call in metaphysics called inner alchemy. When you work in your inner alchemy, what you're doing, you're going within to heal the problem. So you have to go into the internal to take care of the external. You never deal with a problem from the external point of view. You deal with a problem from the internal. Then it will manifest in the outward. So as you can see, so as a result, all these things are these things are linked to stress, unexpressed emotional conflicts within yourself. So as me and the brother Timotheos, we keep telling you over and over again that you have to deal with the unexpressed emotional conflicts that the battle with is within. So once you battling with yourself mentally, you have these symptoms that come up as and is linked to stress and unexpressed emotional conflicts, psychosocial problems, or various mental disorders. Some specialists believe that psychogenic chronic pain exists as a protective distraction to keep dangerous um, repressed emotions such as anger or rage unconscious. Unconscious. So as the result, so even specialists, even doctors with degrees and all these different things, a lot of them don't know this, and some of them even do, that these things is linked. But see, they can't tell you, okay, you need to go home and meditate. Why? Because the pharmaceutical business is a multi-billion-dollar business. So again, they don't really want you to be healed spiritually per se. They want to keep you coming back. It's kind of like if I'm a drug dealer and I sell crack. Okay, I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna make the most potent drug to make you come back, to keep coming back and buying more. So as you can see, you better off going and cooking you up some herbs and dealing with your pain from the inside. So now it says it remains uncontroversial, however, that chronic pain might arise purely from emotional causes. Treatment may include psychotherapy, um, antidepressants, analgesics, or other remedies that are used for chronic pain in general. So the point is you need to see that you can have a physical illness due to psychogenic pain, due to certain pains. If you're having back pain, stomach pain, headache pain, all these different things is linked to your mental emotional states. So now, do you have anything to add, brother?
Nope, it's right on time, bro. You're doing good. Um, Also, I wanted to actually express that when dealing with these metaphysical sciences, we have to realize that a lot of Western science, the modern Western science, actually only looks for physical occurrences. They don't seek out the spiritual, but yet, what's the main day that they do operations? Ask yourself that question. Why is Friday and Saturday the highest times for people going to the hospital? Ask yourself that question. And there's certain types of energies and qualities of the universe and natural functions of the cosmos, which links to uh, what we would term physical illness as of today, but that have implications in the sense of spiritual meaning, where I'm not saying that there's some sort of entity or something that's coming after you causing your illness. Rather, it is something within you that's causing your illness, and therefore it's not understood completely. And so we would be quick to call it a monster or something that's evil spirits or something like that. So therefore, you can see that a lot of illnesses take the form of mental battles in which one's inner state, one's repressed memories and suppressed emotions and feelings have overpowered that conscious mind or the conscious effort to relieve such pain or such implications of pain. So that's just kind of what I wanted to add, that a lot of our illnesses come from a misunderstanding or an ignorance, and a lot of that ignorance is due to our relation to the spiritual and how the spiritual interrelates with the physical. And to be honest with you, a lot of it has to do with the whole Judaic Christianic perspective after the dates of first century AD. before those times, we were using medicines of the earth, the plants, nature, and drinking fresh water, and the air was clean. The air was clean enough to become in tune with the spiritual energy. But now, we live in a day and time where the air is polluted, the food we eat is polluted, the things we do in the daily life is a form of toxication or intoxication to our spiritual and mental health. And that includes watching video games. Playing video games, watching television. That's the number one main drug in our American society is the television. But a lot of people want to speak about drugs, not realizing that a lot of the psychological conditions are from watching television for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day. So, right. And even more, I think the average television is on for a good 9 to 10 hours a day. That's a whole half a day. The rest of the day you're sleeping, right? And I'm pretty sure many people who have the television on when they're sleeping. That's immediate programming. And we're going to be doing a video on mental programming as far as media and other things and television and other things are concerned. But just the simple understanding we're talking about healing is the fact that a lot of these things, foods, television, the toxins in the air that we breathe, the toxins in the food that we eat, a lot of these things have to do with our illnesses, but those things are external. Just imagine the internal things, the thoughts and the emotions that you have from past and present experiences. So, and this is what we're speaking about, how to heal yourself and go beyond these past and present illnesses as far as in the spiritual sense, which we will present more information. But we greatly appreciate those of you guys that are tuning in right now in the live broadcast, part 2 of the inner child healing and the 12 principles of cultivation. And, if you guys have questions and comments, we have the question box open here in, if you go to the link pertaining to Google Hangouts, where we are broadcasting it live. If you are on the YouTube channel, you can probably comment and we'll get back to your questions. And so, yeah, we appreciate the viewers out there and all the people who are sending in, the good vibrations. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say, bro.
Definitely. So getting back into it, the next slide. It says, it's okay. Many people don't know it. It's a psychogenic disease when your body mimics neurological symptoms due to physiological causes. Google it for more details. So you wanna Google that. You wanna make sure you research all you can about this. This is something that all of us need to know, especially when you're in consciousness, because you need to understand what's happening to you when you expand your consciousness and awareness, and your spirit is willing, but the flesh sometimes and the brain, you have to bypass these tricks from the brain that is giving you. It says some kinds of pain, you got neuropathic, caused by damage or disease to the nervous system, tingling, burning, electrical zapping, pins, needles, bumping, the funny bone. So all these things, what it sound like to you? We're going to get into all these things, what it sounds like. These are just medical terms for what we call Kundalini awakening. But we're gonna deal with that. We're gonna deal with that. Right. But these are just medical terms, and I want to get people familiar with these medical terms so that when you do go to the doctor, you can disprove what they're saying to you and saying, well, no, this is nothing but a neuropathic neurological response.
Shit, by the time we get done presenting our information, they wouldn't have to go to the doctor.
Exactly.
What they say, a couple apples a day keeps the doctor away. A couple drinks of wine a day keep the doctor away. A couple hits of cannabis keep the doctor away. So
apple cider vinegar.
Yes. So a lot of these plants have been used for thousands of millions for centuries for health and healing. That's and right. Why aren't they used now? We're getting the synthetic aspect of these things now. Everything is synthetic now. Mm-hmm. So We're going to get into how you heal yourself, how to take these concepts, the metaphysical, spiritual concepts, which overrides the physical, because if you understand the principles of cosmogony and the principles of metaphysical creation, you understand that everything comes from a non-physical source. So that means your thoughts and emotions and your mind is the creator of all things. We'll be getting into that too today. So you realize that when you start to take the power back into your own hands about yourself and self-cultivation, you realize that you realize your creative power of the mind. And I'm not speaking, to you guys on some ignorance. I've actually went through a process of cleansing, and I've changed my dietary processes, and I did all that. Yeah, that was cool. I became a fruitarian. I was a fruitarian for a couple of years. And what I realized was that, there were still issues that had to be dealt with spiritually, issues that had to be dealt with metaphysically. And so, yeah, it's okay to change your diet. That's a good thing. It's okay to use the herbs. That's a good thing. But it's also about the mental and the spiritual cultivation that you do on top of these changes. Because,
because one might ask, I became vegan, I did all these things, but I'm still having emotional pain. I'm still having emotional sickness.
right.
So it goes beyond, what a person can eat. It's all about your mental and emotional aspect of your body. Now, taking care of yourself is also another thing with that. But I know if people might be asking, okay, I eat my fruits, I eat my vegetables, I do all these things, but yet I still have emotional pain. And this emotional pain is manifesting in the form, or this response that is triggered in the brain is causing me to have a sickness. But I eat right, I do what I'm supposed to do, that exercise. So so you have to intertwine them with both. You have to do the
Right.
emotional healing as well as doing your eating, properly, and all of those things.
Right. The inner
Yep.
cultivation.
And I
Yeah.
think even um the great metaphysical teacher Bobby Hemmett used to talk about this all the time, but in a sense to where he didn't really um get into this aspect, but he was dealing with the metaphysical aspect. If you go back and watch his videos, he would tell you that he used to have a brother, and he used to eat, and even Bobby used to eat fruits and vegetables, but he said he's seen people still sick, still these things and that. The reason why is because they have not healed the emotional, mental aspect. So you can put something in your mouth, but it still doesn't. It has to change. Then, in order to change all of that, you have to rewire the mind.
I was gonna say it's not what you put inside of your body, that is gonna fuck you up, because you can actually eat something in the spiritual sense for it to be a form of healing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what you were saying with Bobby Hemmett. He always spoke about using certain things, and I even think Phil Valentine talked about eating things that we would deem not healthy in the physical sense, but that spiritually, metaphysically, they were able to use the metaphysical control of their own minds in states
Correct.
of consciousness in their own self in relation to this physical object, because there's no separateness from all things, the mind and the physical. So, using that understanding, you can implement your conscious directing your mind towards an intent as far as eating things. So therefore you can eat things that are unhealthy, but still you are becoming healthy. And I know this is a paradoxical understanding, but you have to, when you start to understand the principles of metaphysics, you have to start to understand how the mind works and how the mental processes, and as far as thinking and feeling and emotions, and how they influence a lot of the physical reality in which we live in, or what we call our physical reality, which is nothing more than a representation of what's going on in the subconscious mind. So if you
Sure.
have negative thoughts or negative emotions, guess what? That's going to represent itself in the physical as physical illnesses. So when you're doing the practice of meditation and raising kundalini and so on, the whole 9 yards, whether it be listening to music or just, burning the sacrament, all of these things, um, are going to have an implementate or are going to affect the physical because of the spiritual realm, as far as you're accessing the spiritual realm. And when you access the spiritual realm, you destroy part of your humanity, you
That's
know.
right.
So so you can take that however you want, and that goes into the spiritual practices. Now, are you going to realize yourself as a spiritual being, having a physical experience, a physical relation, or are you a physical being trying to seek a spiritual relation? You see what I'm saying? And then that would go into understand how you are going to heal yourself. Because if you are purely physical, then you might as well go do the physical stuff. But if you're a spiritual being, if you understand things in a spiritual light, you're not only going to use the spiritual understanding of ritual, magic, and theology, and henosis, or cultivating the God within, deifying oneself, in for self cultivation and self healing, or you can just deal with the physical stuff.
That's right.
So, and that's what we're here to bring. And it takes steps. We can't just tell you go do this and do that, because what that turns in is it turns into religion. It turns to another form of belief. And what I'm telling you from personal experience is to use your belief system in your own mind and your own body as a tool to cultivate yourself, because it ultimately comes down to what you believe about yourself.
That's right.
Do you believe that you can heal yourself? That will determine your overcoming of that healing.
Well, definitely, because if you don't think that you can and that you have to rely on someone else, you're defeated yourself. You
Right.
lost the battle within, or even with going into Tibetan Buddhism, you have let Mara defeat you.
Yeah. And
So
go ahead, brother.
going to the next slide, it says psychogenic disease. So as you can see in the last slide, we dealt with pain. Now we're going into disease. So it says psychogenic disease or psychogenic illnesses is a name given to physical illnesses that are believed to arise from the emotional or mental stressors, or from physiological or psychotropic
Yeah, that's the psychiatric disorders.
psychiatric disorders. Appreciate that. And mostly commonly applied to illnesses where a physical abnormality or other biomarker has not yet been identified. In the absence of such biological evidence of an underlying disease process, it is often assumed that the illness must have a physiological cause, even if the patient shows no indications of being under stress or having a physiological or um, psychiatric disorder. Examples of diseases that are believed by many to be um, psychogenic included psychogenic seizures, psychogenic um, tremor, and psychogenic pain. There are problems with the assumption that all medically unexplained illnesses. So a lot of times you ever have a person that go to the doctor, and then they go back, they go back, they go to the doctor, and the doctor say, well, nothing is wrong. You know why? Because it's coming from the emotional stress. They can't indicate something that's going on with inside of you spiritually. They can't detect it on a daggone monitor. It ain't gonna come up on the monitor. It's gonna come up on the monitor that you got some disorder, and then they're gonna try to lock you up, put you in a crazy house because you're crazy to them.
Now,
That
brother, I want to mention something, because that's powerful what you said. Because actually in 2011, and I speak about this a lot, it's actually what got me into my spiritual path. But in 2011, I had a near-death experience, and I went to the doctor. I walked all the way to the hospital, and I went to try to see what was wrong, what was going on, and they right away tried to give me some psychological pills,
that's right.
and I already understood there, because I've been studying in the realm of spiritual plants and just the understanding of spiritual healing. prior to that. So, and I actually ultimately, like I said, I went to the doctor and they tried to give me pills. And then, so I went to go get a checkup. And brother, you know what was the crazy thing?
Was
This,
that
the doctor didn't even know what fruitarian was. And that was the way that I was going about healing myself in the physical sense. Now, when I got to the understanding of the metaphysical sense of healing, I started to get into the understanding of shamanism and how the shaman was the person who went into the psychosomatic stressors or those indicators and was able to heal those things within the patients. This was the first science of healing. The shaman, the medicine man, the magic man. So, you can understand how during the development of psychological and the understanding of yeah.
Keep talking real quick, bro. Hold on for a second.
Okay, but you can understand how the psychological aspect and the mental aspect has an influence on the physical aspect as far as the diseases in the body. And it wasn't until recently where I started doing my own shamanic journeying and my own shamanic work, my own shamanic spiritual work into healing my own self through qigong, meditation, magical practices. And this is what we're bringing to you today. We're not just speaking about reading a book and saying, okay, that's it. No, we're speaking about what you can do internally to cultivate yourself. But first, in order to do that, you must understand how these things correspond. So the cultivation of the inner child, the cultivation of the 12 principles are all inner corresponding to the idea of self-healing, the idea of being able to cultivate your own inner self. Now, be wary that, the government and the powers that be always are seeking a way to make and create the people to make them docile, and to take out their humane aspects, to make them crazy, to make them wild. But it's also to make you calm and docile. So, and that's with a lot of the foods we eat and the entertainment, the entertainment, the psychological disorders coming from that. And so we have to look at our lifestyle choices. Now, when you go to the doctor, they're not going to tell you to change your lifestyle choices. They're going to keep telling you to keep eating those negative foods, keep thinking those negative things.
Keep popping these pills.
Exactly. And they're going to give you more. Oh, those don't work? Okay, do this and that.
And check this out. I seen a commercial on TV, and it says, and you know when the part on TV, right, where they say try this medicine and ask your doctor for this if it's safe to take this. It includes seizures, it includes depression, suicidal thoughts, and it could cause death. So when you hear these things, it could cause death. So basically, it seems as though these pills, they can actually, you think it's helping another part, but it's actuality weakening another part of your body, of your physical. So it seems as though it gives you a negative energy attached to you.
Yeah, it's synthetic.
You know why?
It's not carrying the organic molecules. That's my first thought. It's not carrying that original energy, that primordial source. So therefore, it doesn't work on the body as we would think healing.
Yeah, and because if you take some medicine, if anything have you thinking suicidal thoughts, what is that? Like, come on,
real.
Man. Like,
that's true.
Hold up. First of all, I should have put this in the slideshow. I should have put this in there. Look up the word pharmacy in the Greek. Pharmacy in the Greek is pharmakia. Now, pharmakia would be another name for potion.
Pharmacon, potionry, or making potions, or another word, and I know he's going to get to this, poisons.
That's
poisoners.
Right. Yep.
I study medicine and pharmacology, so I understand this aspect. Yep. I understand how plants work. in the pharmacology aspect, in the pharmaceutical, in the pharmacon aspect. Now, when you look up the etymology of this word, pharmacon means poison, to intoxinate.
That's right.
So when you go to the doctor and they give you pills, pharmaceuticals, they're doing sorcery on you, because that's the root of the word pharmacon.
Yep.
and sorcery, when we really think of sorcery, it's not really what it really is in terms of magic. Sorcery is actually being able to access your subconscious mind.
So
So
what do you call that when they give you a medicine and they say it could cause suicidal thoughts? That's what tapping into they tapping into. There's something in there what they got within there where they actually are accessing your mind at the same time.
you know what it is, brother? How do I say this? They're trying to locate the melanin, which can't be located, and they're trying to implement these things into the nervous system, because that's where these drugs go. Anything that interacts with your consciousness, i.e., psychoactive plants, or a lot of the pharmaceutical plants that you take for psychological illnesses, involve opiates.
That's right.
So everybody's walking around on pretty much heroin, and for their psychological issues, wondering why they have more psychological issues and they want to kill themselves. Now, the understanding of this goes back to the root word pharmacon, sorcery. They're doing sorcery on you, magic. So really, it really comes down to magical practice. You have the knowledge of the priest, or you have knowledge of the layman. Yep. Either you're a priest or you're a layman. Now, in my consciousness, I'd hope that everybody is the priest, everybody is the magician. Whereas, we live in a society now where, like we were just saying, so cultivate your 12 principles, cultivate your inner child, the inner child healing. Go back to the ancient ways, the organic physicians.
That's right.
So, what we're speaking on is inner cultivation. And like I want to say, I appreciate those of you guys that are tuning in. We got a couple viewers. We got a whole bunch of them now. So we appreciate those of you guys who are viewing in, and we have the question and comment box open. So ready for your questions.
And make sure you ask any make sure you ask any question. Feel free for that. But jumping into what was I left off at? It says there are problems with the assumption that all medically unexplained illnesses must have a physiological cause. It always remains possible that genetic, biochemical, electrophysiological of other abnormalities may be present, which we do not have the technology or background to identify. Because again, you can't have the technology to see inside a person's subconscious. You can't measure a mind that's unseen. It's only the individual that knows what goes on inside of their own subconscious. The term psychogenic disease is often used in a familiar way to psychosomatic disease. However, the term psychogenic usually implies that psychological factors played a key casual role in the development of the illness. The term psychosomatic is often used in a broader way to describe illnesses with a known medical cause where physiological factors may nonetheless play a role. So, as you can see, psychogenic disease and psychogenic pain, it's all hand in hand with mental and emotional stressors inside of the spirit. It's in the spirit. Inside of the subconscious, it deals with your long-term memory. So what you're gonna have to do is you gotta ask yourself, talk to yourself, ask yourself, go into psychology, you gotta ask yourself, okay, what is going on within me that I'm having such pain emotionally and mentally? What's the source of this? All right, so now here's some pictures of what happens. You can have different issues, pathological conditions, infections of viral, bacterial, or fungal origin, inflammatory, autoimmune disease, neoplasms, um, vocal cord paralysis, thyroid function problems. Now, the thyroid function problems I've experienced myself in doing my inner alchemy, and also the infections or the viral or bacterial or fungal. This doesn't mean that something is wrong with you. I repeat, it just means that you need to see with the throat and the vocal cord paralysis and the throat thyroid that deals with the throat chakra, the sixth chakra, and it deals with your communication. So every time, for example, every time you, matter of fact, I'm gonna dig into that because that's going into quantum physics. But I'm gonna get into that. Hold on. So as you can see, all these different diseases and pathological conditions. Now you see that picture, right? That picture with the guy holding his uh his hand on his spine. Those of you who been understanding metaphysics with the Kundalini, you see where's that energy, that pain coming from? The base of the spine. What's at the base of the spine? Your Kundalini energy.
Kundalini rising through indigenous mythology.
That's right. So you can see this guy in this picture here. He probably, you know, um, having some back pain due to him raising his Kundalini, and he's experiencing some problems. So all that pain is that's so all that is coming through what? The nervous system. So now change your thinking. Proverbs 23:7. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, saith he, but his heart is not with thee. Only positive thoughts beyond this point. So,
Brother, before you go into that, I just had a realization that when it says eat and drink, this means to appropriate. Let me see if I can get in this camera a little bit more. It means to appropriate in one's consciousness or to take in one's mind. So not only eating and drinking in the physical sense, but also talking about eating and drinking in the mental, in the mind, in the emotions, and in the psychological. So I just had that type of instant spur of inspiration there, just looking at that.
most definitely. And that was a good key point right there. And you're absolutely right. So, what was the purpose of me bringing this scripture forth? The purpose of bringing this scripture forth is um whatever you think in your heart that you are, you will become. So if you think that you're sick, you're sick. If you think that you have a heart disease, you have a heart disease. Just because the doctor tell you these things doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Now it could pop up. Um Now even see, you know what, I was gonna save this for another video. Even with the term AIDS, even with AIDS, they test. See, it's really antibodies. But to have AIDS, if you have a common cold, or any disease or sickness, if you test for the AIDS, you would test positive. I'm pretty sure everyone has had. I'm pretty sure everyone has had cancer before in their life, not just one particular time. I'm quite sure it popped up and then went away multiple times.
Yeah, we actually have cancerous cells in our body right now. It's just not called cancer.
Exactly.
It's not termed cancer until it becomes something that science can physically see it. just like we're speaking now about the metaphysical, a lot of things we're speaking about is a metaphysical occurrence before it could even be physically recognized. So what the brother is speaking about is literally the idea of mind and body interrelationship. So not only are you mental, but you're also physical. So not only are you your physical self, this physical meat body right here, but you're also the spiritual, the mental, the psychological. So in this, they both intertwine and cultivate each other. They interact with each other to cultivate who you consider self, who you consider who you are. So when dealing with the heart, you're speaking about the soul, the emotions, the mind. And that goes back to the ancient perspective, dealing with the soul, the concept of the soul in the mind, in the heart. They were interchangeably. There was no difference between the soul and the mind, and the heart and the spirit, because spirit means breath. So intertwined.
And another key thing is I want to put out there is a lot when I said everybody has had cancer at some point in their life. How many people have went to the bathroom and took a bowel movement and they seen blood in it? Not just, but more than one time. Everybody has, depending on what you took in, into your So everybody needs to cleanse their colon. You can cleanse your colon in many different ways. Your colon can get backed up, and when your colon is backed up, it can produce these things. So you want to make sure you clean your colon. You want to make sure you do some type of colon cleansing. You know, um,
In the medical, and actually the using plants as a way to heal, it is termed that most diseases, all diseases, are a occurrence of what is known as mucus in the body.
Exactly.
So, and this starts at the root, at the body, in the core of one's being, and that then can be translated in terms of the back part of yourself. You got to clean yourself, man, and this involves eating healthy foods as well. So when you do eat the plants, when you do eat fruits and vegetables, these things clean your body. They cleanse your body. That's what they do, and really that is the process of physical cleansing, particularly cleaning the colon area by eating healthier foods.
Yep.
Because go ahead, bro.
And if you can't afford alkaline water, which if you can't afford alkaline water, just drink. Get you some lemons, get you a big old jug, and squeeze those lemons in that water, and let it sit for two days or so, and you got yourself some alkaline water. You know, um, that lemon does a lot for the nervous system also. So what Bobby Hemmett um used to say, what Bobby Hemmett used to say is, you want to clean out you want to clean out on a regular. You want to clean out.
This involves fasting as well.
Fasting. Yeah.
But I actually have a book. I have a book out right now called the actually it's called the Path to Holistic Health. So we're dealing with the biochemical understanding of the body and how it relates to the universe. And in that book, I particularly go into the specific aspect of different plants and how they cleanse the body, and also relating to different experiences I had on my journey of fasting and different things like that. In my particular journey of using the foods as being a way to heal, and that understanding of, well, the body is energy, all the way down to its molecular properties. And therefore, the foods that we take into the body should be of that similar makeup, that similar structure, electrical structure. So the idea of mucus is the idea of, when you take a battery and you leave it there for a long time and it starts to create this acid. Well, this is the same thing what happens in the body. Different things that we take into the body actually leave certain resins, and these resins in turn form different diseases, like almost like a rust, right? So when we eat foods, it leaves a rust. Well, in terms of healing, what you want to do is eat the foods that will leave the less rust in the body. Well, now if you take this concept and the body is what, 85% water, so fruits are what, 80, 90, 95% water. So if you take this concept and still apply it to nature in the cosmos, and even if you understand yourself as a cosmic being, right? We're made of cosmic stardust, and everything on the earth is made of cosmic stardust. Then therefore, why are we eating foods that are, created in laboratories, genetically manipulated foods? You know what this means? That these foods are genetically manipulated in the way to take out what is necessary for your cosmic substance. So that is another idea of healing as far as with the plants, and knowing that your body is an electrical system, and that all diseases come from what the brother was speaking about when he's speaking about alkaline and acidic properties of the body. And now when we're speaking metaphysically, you can understand that like a battery, right? You want to be able to charge yourself with the cosmic energy of light. You have dark light and you have bright light. So you want to be able to when you go out in the sun, you're charging yourself. But not only when you go out in the sun, what does your body do? What does your skin do? You start to sweat. Well, what is that sweat? You're getting rid of toxins out of your body. And your skin is the largest organ of your body. So therefore you can understand that in a brighter light. So what I'm saying is, when we go out in the sun, we are taking in a form of healing. We are taking in a form of, they consider a vitamin. But if you understand it that in that sense, then that's kind of like saying that you're already sick. So I don't like to understand it like that. But in the sense that you're taking in cosmic principles from nature, which is the same makeup of your body, in the sense that when you take in these principles, you're creating that alkaline structure, a balance between the alkaline and acidic, because you don't want to be too alkaline, and of course if you're too acidic, then you become unhealthy as well.
Yeah, 'cause it's all about balance.
Right.
You do too much of anything, it can hurt you.
Right. That's right.
So it says think positive, and this is going into the realm of quantum physics. It says if you want to make changes in your life, you must look to the causes, and the causes are almost always the way you are using your mind, the way you are thinking. You cannot think both negative and positive thoughts at the same time. One or the other will dominate. The mind is a creature of habit, so it becomes each individual's responsibility to make sure that positive emotions and thoughts constitute the dominating influence in their mind. In order to change the external conditions, you must first change the internal. I'll read that again. In order to change external conditions. So we see what's going on right now in the world today, Flint and all these terrorist attacks on the indigenous people rising and all these different things happening. And even those outside of the indigenous people, all people should know and should be aware that everything everything that we see in the world is a result of what's going on in the internal, in the internal of collective consciousness. We're all a part of that one collective consciousness, but we're all not thinking as one. As a matter of fact, we can take this to the Tower of Babel. You see how it all connects, bro?
Yes.
And see, with the Tower of Babel, with those deities coming and splitting the tongue so that we all can't operate as one, because they love this. They love this the way it is now. It's not. We're not supposed to operate as one, because balance. It has to be balance in the cosmos to balance to balance the cosmos out. As a matter of fact, even some would like to argue that what's going on now in the world today is a part of balancing the world out. Things have to be balanced out. It's in seasons. Just like the brother went into this 12 zodiac, the 12 constellation. Each of these 12 constellations, certain things happen within these time cycles. Now, I know I'm getting off track, but you got to follow me because it's going to all connect. Now, it's wintertime, right? We're in wintertime. So basically, we're in a time in the season in which what they would call a dead season, which death would occur on a high rate. Now, when the sun, when it's a summertime, or even in a different season in the zodiac, you have certain things that happen. So to balance out everything, there's always a so we came from a golden age to a dark age, from dark age to golden age, to golden age to dark age to go on and on and on and on and on, continual cycle. So remember, we was in the golden age of hip hop in the '90s. We was in the golden age where, and even a lot of basketball players, great basketball players was in that golden age. Football players. Now you look at NBA, you see a lot of young people, but they're not as talented as the way they was before. Even when you look in boxing, you see all these things. When you look at the teachers, the teachers that have passed, Dr. Delbert Blair, who had just transitioned, made a transition. Um, all these Bobby Hemmett, all these people, they have brought this information, but now we're coming back into a golden age. Now this golden age is different. This golden age is based on the creativity, the creative side, the creative aspect. What can you create from the divine and manifest it to the physical? Now I know I'm going ahead of myself, but I just had to put that out there because that was in my spirit.
No, you're good, bro. I felt that. I actually feel the same way in the sense of, actually, what I'm about to bring forth is going into that aspect of creativity, and so it's really going into perspective. We have a lot of interconnections within different concepts that we're bringing up today. So,
And I'm gonna say this too. We have a lot of Tahudis being born in this day and age. We have a lot of Tahudis being born. We have those that can create the legacy. The reason why we in the age of creative flow of energy, that creative flow of energy, is because same thing with the ancient Kemites and the Atlanteans, where we are to leave a legacy behind in this golden age that we're coming into of creativity. We are to leave a legacy behind for the next generation. So now we're creating a marker, so that the next generation, so that we can be an ancestor to them. So the next time we go back into a dark age, they can pick up our creative, whether we create languages. You got some brothers that create their own languages. Some don't, and we ain't listen. We're not in the Stone Age anymore, but of course it's always okay to look back at what we did in the past, but also too, we talking about the now. We talking about the present moment in time. The past will never repeat. The past will never come back again. But we will evolve and are evolving, from which we don't build pyramids, but we build in pyramidal structure, educational learnings and teachings. And we're building our pyramids when it comes to our path of enlightenment.
yeah, you're right. We're actually building that. We're actually molding the path for our spiritual sons and daughters, of the
Yeah.
next generation, actually. And like you were saying, and I think we stress this idea because we're coming from, the temple divine is mainly speaking to indigenous peoples, and we're speaking about the cultivation and the growth and the elevation of our evolution of our people. You see what I'm saying? As a whole, the collective whole of the indigenous population. Now, yes, we can be described in many different tribes and sects in different areas, but at the same time, we're all one as a whole. And when we realize this aspect that of indigenous cultivation, then we can take a step forward in our growth for the children, because we just are coming out of a dark stage for the indigenous peoples of the West,
That's
whether
right.
you're from Africa or you're from, South America, you know, and to be honest, you may have a lot of similarities than you think.
Mm-hmm.
So the Temple Divine is specifically dealing with, the indigenous cultivation. This is in a school for indigenous peoples, to further our traditions and our culture. And our languages, we're supposed to create new languages. We're not supposed to be speaking the same language for thousands of years.
That's
Yes,
right.
that's a cultural tradition, but it's always the magician, or it's always the priest, it's always the shaman that comes in and breaks those traditions and creates new understandings and new modes of mind and mental comprehension for the time. We're not going to go do spells and magic dealing with ancient Egypt in today's time, because we don't do the same practices, we don't live the same life as that. So we're, like I said, we're the indigenous peoples in the West. I'm also speaking to the indigenous peoples of the East as well. Those of you who are trying to cultivate your indigenous practices. And when I speak on indigenous, I'm speaking on the old ancient ones. This DNA structure that's within you that identifies you as indigenous.
That's right. So, so going into that, it says the mind is a creature of habit. So it becomes each individual's responsibility to make sure that positive emotions and thoughts constitute the dominating influence of their mind. In order to change external conditions, you must first change internal. Most people this step, they'll omit this step. They try to change external conditions by working directly on those conditions. This always proves futile or at best temporary. Same thing with medicine, like what we went into. It's a temporary fix unless it is accompanied by a change of thoughts and beliefs. Now, I'm gonna give my experience real quick with concepts and with thoughts and beliefs. Now, I remember when I was doing a meditation affirmation on self-belief so that I can, believe in myself. I was doing some affirmations. I was like, I believe in myself. I believe in my truth. I believe I can do all things and all that. So as I'm doing this mantra, I end up going into a trance-like state, and I end up seeing myself sitting on the ground meditating in the lotus position with my hands put together. And I'm looking at all the things that I used to think about myself in a form of residual self-image. I didn't see myself, as anything important. So I seen myself in a residual self-image, and I seen, my fears manifested before me, and they came in the form of the things that I fear most. And as I'm sitting there, as soon as my fears, would manifest themselves in my mind, um, it would arise up and try to stop me from thinking positive about myself, which was my ego, or that mata in the Tibetan would try to um, get me not to have positive thoughts about myself. So as I'm continuing the mantra, I feel surges of energy powering up me each time I pass these tests. So each time, I would be tempted to not think positive about myself. Um, the temptations would get more and more tempting and more frightening, because it manifests as the things that I fear the most. I'm seeing animals shape shifting right in front of me. Seeing different things happening, shape shifting, and all these different things happening in front of my pineal gland and my unseen eye. So, um, so I begin to continue to stay calm and don't fear, because fear, it doesn't exist in the spiritual realm. You know, um, Danger, you can be in danger, but fear, being afraid, because we're all things. So why be afraid of something that is a part of you? So that was the experience, and each time I felt this surge of powerful energy, um, coming from it, my root chakra started to spin as I'm in this meditation. So just to give you, my experience on that, I'm quite sure all of y'all out there have y'all experience. Um, but this is some real stuff. You have to think positive about yourself. You have to. 'Cause if you want to project a better life for yourself, you have to think positive about yourself. Now, I know we might think positive about ourselves, but in actuality, we really don't. The ego wants you to think that you already think positive about yourself, but then you find out unconsciously you don't. So it's two different mindsets going on, two different systems of understanding. Your conscious mind wants you to think that you got it going on, but then your unconscious part of yourself, like, you lying to yourself. You just lying. You just lying. You lie. You little liar. You. So um, it says awakening to this truth. The way to a better, more successful life becomes crystal clear. Train your conscious mind to think thoughts of success, happiness, health, prosperity, and weed out negativity such as fear and worry. Keep your conscious mind busy with expectation of the best. So always tell your conscious mind, I'm successful. I am prosperity. I am love. I am peace. I am happiness. I am joy. I am that I am. You have to constantly feed your conscious mind, because once these two merge together, the conscious and the unconscious, once these two mind states collide with one another, you will have your super consciousness, and you will have all these things intertwined with your being to make you great. So now, to weed out such as fear and worry, keep your conscious mind busy with expectation of the best. So keep your conscious mind, concentrated on the best outcome. Every time you get the worst outcome from your conscious mind, you'll be like, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do that. Oh my God, how am I do this? How am I do that? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. In panic mode. Then from panic mode, you get in fear. Then fear will in turn hold you back, setback. So now it says, um, keep your conscious mind busy with expectation of the best, and make sure that the thoughts you habitually think are based upon what you want to see happen in your life. Water takes, now listen, this is some wisdom for you. Water takes the shape of whatever container it holds it, whether it be glass or a vase or a river bank. Likewise, your mind will create, manifest according to images you habitually think about your daily thinking. So, like what Bruce Lee said, you want to become shapeless, formless, like water. Now, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friends.
That's right.
So basically, what he was saying is, you know, you create and manifest according to the images you happily think about your daily thinking. Be like water. Be transparent in each of your in all your in your environment. Think positive. Think clear. Think the best. Because when you think the best, you will in turn, create a reality for yourself that, man, that you will love. If you want um success in all levels, think that. If you want to master everything in your life, say to yourself, I am a master of all things. I am all the zodiac signs, not just one. I'm all of them, because I act like all of them at times. I master all of them.
That goes into the 12 principles of cultivation.
That's right.
And actually, so if you realize that these 12 principles are not only in the zodiac, but also they represent 12 principles within the body, 12 physical bodily systems, major systems of the bodily organs. And then you have the 12 spiritual systems, or the meridians, with the chi. Then you can understand that, okay, there's more things going on than with this 12 principles. So the cultivation of the 12 is not just in the physical sense, but it's also in the metaphysical sense, where you also have 12 deities of most of the ancient pantheons. You have 12 major deities. I wonder why. So it's talking about the cultivation of the 12, deifying the 12 principles within yourself, the 12 cranial nerves, the 12 principles of the conscious and subconscious mind. You have to deify that now, So this is what we're dealing with now. So the inner child healing and the 12 principles of cultivation deals with understanding the relationship between the physical and the material and the spiritual. So right on the button right there.
Yeah. So it says the mind. The mind creates sicknesses based on what's in the individual's mind. So when you heal yourself of your inner child, the physical manifestation of the trauma is a metaphysical illness, but it comes from the brain. Even when you are stressed out, it will come out as high blood pressure. So the key is, don't think negative about the experience but observe and stay calm, thinking positive. Remember, the brain is the tool used to have a conscious mind. It does not understand spiritual information in the processing system. So it's kind of like a computer. The computer doesn't understand. If I type on my computer right now that you're using, whether you're on the cell phone, the computer's still the same thing. Cell phone is a computer, just a mini computer. But if you put some information in that's not even programmed within the processing system, it will have a malfunction. So which means what? Each time that you heighten your vibration, or the energies is working strongly within your body, because remember, you have to have all your 12 centers aligned to have that divine communication with the source energy, so that the source energy can directly download information into your being, and you will receive divine information. Now,
See, 1 second, brother. He's speaking on a higher level now, because you have all these people talking about cultivation of the 7 chakras, but where's the 12 principles? You know what I'm saying? And the 12 principles, this is the other side of the metaphysics, that the metaphysicians, those who call themselves metaphysicians, we don't call ourselves that. We're indigenous ones. But those who call themselves metaphysicians, they don't go into the 12 principles. You see what I'm saying? So the 12 principles in and of itself is a deeper concept. And I just wanted to say that, brother, because a lot of people may get the understanding, oh, the 12 principles are like the chakras. In a sense, yes. But we're not here to glorify these things. We're here to give you the understanding so that you can go do the cultivation for yourself. And that cultivation, that practice, is not to impress anyone. It's not to gain multiple friends. It's not to become part of this group or that group. It's about becoming your indigenous self and really cultivating that inner understanding of your mind. So that's just what I wanted to speak, because you're speaking on some powerful points right now. And, I feel that, those viewers out there, they're getting a lot of information right now. And, a lot of this stuff is even allowing me to see certain things in my life. So, and I'm pretty sure, it's doing the same thing for the viewers out there. So,
exactly.
and I want to say, we appreciate the viewers, but you know what? I also have appreciation for, being able to share this information to others, and being able to be with the brother here online right now, live broadcast, out of our lives, to bring and share this information with you guys.
Most definitely. And And the key thing is the brain is like the processing system. Even when you're dreaming, you wonder why when you dreaming a good dream too, and you find yourself waking up in the middle of a dream and you're like, dang, I couldn't even, because you know why? Because your processing system could not process the information. It's kind of hard to bring back information in the dream state when you're sleeping and then bring it back to the processing system so that you can remember. So that's why it's important to meditate and go into deep trance state, trance like shamanic, um, shamanic trance like states. Because you will be able to retain a lot more information. But when, yeah, I know you about to, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna get into that aspect a little bit here. So, and specifically this trance state, because this goes into even religion and magic. So, and like I'm saying, when you get into the science of metaphysics and you are an indigenous one, you can tie these things together. But if you come at it with a scientific, trying to figure out, well, this or that, with a rational mind, you're not going to get an understanding of the hidden message, the hidden understandings. And so, yeah, when he goes into a lot of the shamanic stuff, we have our practical understandings from this. So, that's why it's very emotional sometimes for us when we bring up these subjects. And but on my terms, I have a lot of practical understanding with shamanism. So when speaking about trance states, we're particularly speaking about a heightened state of consciousness, a heightened state of emotional state of awareness, other than your ordinary normal awakening state of consciousness. Now, this goes into the idea of dreaming and different states of awareness. So when you're speaking about the cultivation of the metaphysics, for some reason, the metaphysicians, they don't want to speak about altered states of consciousness. They don't want to speak about using the plants as a method or a way to access your pineal gland and your melanin and all of that. There's some teachers out there. Kalindi Ai, for an example, he speaks about the mushrooms and how to access the pineal gland and the DMT and the what's that called? The dimethyltryptamine within the brain. So, there's people that speak about this, but they don't get the light that they should, because this is the powerful objective. It's really to go beyond the conscious mind. It's really to go beyond what you ordinarily believe about yourself. And who's willing to say that? People lose their jobs over that. The doctor will lose his job if he tells you to go heal yourself, because he won't make money from you. So therefore, a lot of these people are not going to tell you what we're telling you. And that's the thing. We have heart. We have experience behind us. So we really don't care, in a sense, if we share some information. Of course, there's people out there that, may take this information in a different light. That's cool, because that happens all the time with information anyway. But the whole idea with trance states of consciousness is not to get a whole idea of, okay, we're just doing this to have fun. No, you're doing this to cultivate yourself, to heal yourself, to become the master of your own life, to take things in your own hand. So, and that's the power in it. Once you start taking things in your own hands, people start to lose jobs.
So the key thing to understand is the brain. The brain can also malfunction. Also, it can have a glitch, a malfunction, a part in which it cannot comprehend the spiritual path of the spiritual energies, within. So it will create or mimic a disease due to the high levels of conscious thinking and high levels of your awareness that you come into. But the whole thing is to not, in a sense, identify with the disease. Meaning, you can't say to yourself, "I am sick," because when you say "I am sick," then you just told your brain "I'm sick," and then it kicks in and says you're sick. So then you just created a sickness out of just thinking. So you have to control your thoughts. You have to understand how the brain operates, so that you can understand how to use it. So it says it does not understand information in a processing system called brain. So you're dealing with what's in the spirit or the unconscious mind, because the unconscious mind is the ruler of the conscious. Because it's only the conscious is only 10%. We get in that. So conscious mind is 10%. Subconscious mind is 90%. The conscious mind is the willpower, um, long-term memory, logical thinking, critical thinking. Subconscious mind is the bottom of the iceberg. It which means it's the bottom of it's the back in the back of that mind. It's the beliefs, emotions, habits, values, protective reactions, long-term memory, imagination, intuition. So you see on the side, you see conscious, which is at the top, and then pre-conscious, which is the ego, super ego, and ID, then unconscious. So it says emotional body or Kundalini awakening. The signs and symptoms of Kundalini awakening are different for everybody, and it depends largely on the energy blocks in the person's fit. Now we're going into the metaphysical understanding to tie this thing all the way in to connect the dots. To what to connect the dots is to what is the psychogenic. So we're still on the psychogenic. So this ties in. So I just gave you the doctor, how the medical would explain it, and I'm giving you the metaphysical way to look at these things in the spiritual, emotional bodies. So now, the signs, symptoms of Kundalini awakening are different for everybody and depends largely on the energy blocks in the person's physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual bodies. Now, you see it says it depends on the person's physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual body. Why is that? Because this is still the psychogenic disease or illnesses or whatever you want to call it, but it's not technically an illness or disease, just explain it in doctor's terms and scientific terminology. But to break this thing down into metaphysical terminology, it's still dealing with the same thing. So it says the signs and symptoms um, generally relate to blocks, and all these blocks are worked through and released. The symptoms dissipate. So you see that it says this. It says and the signs and symptoms generally relate to blocks, and all these blocks are worked through and released. The symptoms dissipate. So now you see how the Kundalini awakening it brings up the things that's in the darkness to surface. So all the things that's in your unconscious, it brings these things up to the light, which means what? It brings it up to the surface of the ocean. Just like I just showed you in the last slide. The bottom of the iceberg, which is what? The subconscious mind. So what the Kundalini does, it raises, it raises up the emotions, the blocked emotions, it raises it up to the conscious mind. Now you're recalling these things to memory with the conscious mind, so that you're able to deal uh, with the with the blockages and work them out. Understand that. So now, this is how it looks when it's happening in the body. From the nervous system, this serpent energy raises up from the spine, from the base of the spine, all the way up. So you're talking about energies and forces. Now when we go into the dark, when we go into the occult science, we're going to deal with the Damians and how that rises up also. But we get in the nervous system with the melanocytes and all these different things, these different intelligences within the body. So now, as you can see, there's a picture of the energy and how it flows in the spine. So it says brain manifestation symptoms. So these are the things that you need to look for, and I'm quite sure everybody has experienced these things. It says energetic sensations like energy in the body or internal lightning bolts. So you might feel yourself like electrical shock. that's going on with inside of you. Sound familiar, huh? Psychogenic. She says shaking and jittering in the body, usually totally out of control of the person, out of the person's control. It says a sensation or insects or snakes crawling on the body. So you might feel like something's crawling on you, like bugs is crawling on you and different things like that. So you might wonder why. Hmm. Hmm. Why do you feel like you got snakes moving up your body? I know one time I felt like I had ants. This was when I was elevating my consciousness. I used to have feelings like I used to wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night feeling like ants is crawling in my body, but I'm not feeling anything. Hmm. Moving on. It says feelings of cold in the body and conversely feelings of intense heat in the spine or in specific chakras. It says spontaneously arising kriyas, yoga or yoga practices, um, mudras or hand gestures, um, bandhas, body locks, or asana and paranya. Usually the person has never studied or learned any of these spontaneously rising practice. So you might find yourself doing a yogic position. You might be sitting down and next thing you know, your hand might lock up in a certain position. Wonder why? We're going to find out. So all these things finna get ready to tie in. It says waves of intense pleasure or bliss, even leading to orgasm. So you might have arousal or orgasm without even doing anything. It's just spontaneous, just out of nowhere. And you might feel a feeling of blissness. It says big emotional shifts or mood swings well beyond the normal. So you might find yourself getting angry at sometimes, like you're just so mad and frustrated, and to the point to where you're just going off. Or you might feel the sadness or depression or certain things like that. It says sensory overload. Sounds, lights, and noise. You can't take noise too much. It's like noise and your senses intensifies. You can't be nowhere with lights too bright. You can't be in a large group of people because it's too much talking. It's too much noise. Everything becomes too much. It says strange, eternal sounds that no one else can hear, like buzzing or musical instruments or thunder. So you might hear within you, like zzz, or you might even hear, or you might even hear, Mozart playing in your ear. I don't know what, but you might hear, Mozart. It says waves of um, apparent wisdom or insight into a way, the way reality actually is. So you might have your senses might be heightened to the point in which you have inner wisdom that you don't even know where it came from. It's kind of like you speaking on something, but you don't know because you never studied it, but you just know it's right through intuition. It says heightening periods of creativity. So you might be, go through a creative buzz to where you be like, man, let me go get some paper and pen. Let me draw up something real quick. And then you be like, boom, you created art. You don't even know where it came from. Or you might be playing an instrument, or you might be creating lyrics to a song. Creativity. Doing something. You might be creating a science experiment or something. So now you look on the side, on these pictures, you see Kundalini awakens the brain. It says the Kundalini energy rises through the Shashama. Large amounts of high octane energy reaches the brain. The energy flows from Ras or RES. Sounds familiar, huh? Ras Timotheos. Sounds familiar, huh?
Yeah, because the Ras is speaking about the head, speaking about the chief as well. And in our ancient traditions, we signified the chief as the top of the head, or the Ras, the head, which controls all 12 aspects, or the disciples, or all 12 principles of cultivation. And when you actually get into the science of the cultivation of the 12, you start to understand the Ras and its significance. And you know, it's really an experience. It's an experience of the Ras rather than, you know, an intellectual concept.
That's right.
And so when he's speaking about the Shimshunra and the two different pathways up the spine, he's speaking about a metaphysical concept in relation to the Ras, or the head, in its aspects as far as the spiritual cultivation.
So, as you can see, the rods and thermus to the cortex, visual cortex, and awakens dormant, underactive parts of the brain, especially the frontal lobes. The whole brain now begins to pulse as a unit, um, unit, um, generating um, coherent high altitude brain waves within all frequency bands. Maximum altitude will usually be in the alpha band. However, fast EEG activity in the beta and gamma bands will strongly increase in the frontal area. So now, what does that sound like to you? It sounds like a computer generated system. We're dealing with a computer system. We're dealing with a system in which deals with energetic waves coming in at a high rate. And then by these energetic waves coming in at a high rate, they would cause certain symptoms that register as sickness. You must understand this. Because you have to understand how these we're talking about frequencies. When you deal with the alpha, beta, gamma, you're talking about frequencies. You're talking about 200 hertz of energy. You're talking about 300, 500 hertz of energy.
We'll be getting into that a little later too.
See, man, it ain't, man. It says symptoms and signs Kundalini awakening. Hearing sounds inside the head, tones, music, hissing, roaring, seeing a light inside the head, seeing the environment as illuminated visual hallucinations. So with all all this stuff sounds like, man, somebody need to be in a crazy house somewhere, don't it? It's like you need to have a straight jacket on. See, this is what they want you to think. But see, I just showed you the physical aspect, what the doctors see it as. They call it psychogenetic, a physical illness through psychogenic symptoms, illnesses. So all these things still are the same thing as the psychogenic. So now, symptoms of tingling, vibrating. I just read that under psychogenic. So it says the path. This is the one I added in here, bro. It says Matthew 7. See, this is the sevenfold path right here. Sevenfold path. This is how you get to know this path that we're talking about. Cause see, all these things that happen in the nervous system, and the chakra is a part of the nervous system. So now, Matthew 7, 13, 14, King James. It says, "Enter ye in the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be find it."
Mm-hmm.
So only few people would actually realize that, wait a minute, the problems are not outside, but it's within. So it behooves you to deal with the problems within. So narrow is the way. Narrow is the way. What is that narrow path? We're talking about the nervous system. See, man, I hope y'all getting this out there, man. Because see, this is some profound information, and I'm even blown away just by even talking about it. We talking about the powers lies within the nervous system. We talking about that small path that many don't even know about, that very few don't even want to hear.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The path of the wise. Like what my brother Polite said, this is the path that turns from niggas to netchers. So this is how you make that transition. This is how you make that transition. So now, on behalf of Temple of Divine, Temple of Divine University Metaphysics, we want to thank you for allowing us to come and speak to you today. We thank you for all the um, the support that you're giving us and watching these videos and learning and growing and becoming a better light being, light entity. We want to thank you for all these things, man. And I myself and Timotheos, we you know we want to thank you, and we want to tell you to just keep following the path, keep on this narrow path, keep going this narrow path, and you're not crazy. So whenever the doctors tell you that you're crazy you're crazy because psychogenic. No, all these things they want you to see. This is why I showed you this because they want you to think that you're crazy. They want you to think that, but you're not. You're talking about you going through a spiritual experience that's manifesting a manifestation. For example, like anger. If I say, Brother Matheos, I'm angry. Well, I'm not. I'm not angry. I'm experiencing the physical manifestations of anger.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? There's two different things here that we're talking about. Two different things. When you say I'm angry, I'm not angry. What happens when you're angry? What happens when the physical manifestation of anger comes upon you? Your temperature rises, your heart rate, your pulse rises, your heart rate increases.
High blood pressure.
Exactly. High blood pressure.
So then turns into what? Diabetes and other illnesses.
Exactly. So you will very rarely find a Tibetan angry.
Why is that? Why is that?
Why is that? Why can't you can very rarely find a Buddhist monk angry. You know why? Because they understand these things. They understand, what, if I get my heart rate up, then I could, hurt in turn hurt myself. So I'm gonna deal at a more peaceful standpoint. I'm just gonna be carefree. Be carefree. Don't let things get to you that easy to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
Your girlfriend fussing at you, say, look, I'm about to go outside, take a walk, you know what I mean? So I can clear my head, so I can get this, so I can do some Tai Chi for a minute, do some breathing techniques so I can get this negative emotion off of me.
Yeah, but first of all, if your wife or something is screaming at you, there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
Something wrong.
Right.
You shouldn't have to yell at each other to get a point across. Whatever happened to talking?
Right.
Whatever happened to that?
Communication, man.
What happened to communication and talking? You don't have to yell to get your point across. And see, that's why I try to tell you all the time. You don't have to yell to get your point across. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's reason. Let's talk. Let's talk this thing out. If I got an issue, okay, let's talk without yelling, without screaming. Because overall, even when you're yelling and screaming, nobody's getting their point across anyway. Because you can't get your point across yelling at someone.
Yep.
So it would behoove you to understand that. You gotta understand that you can't get somebody to see your point of view just by yelling. Either they see it or they don't. And if they don't see it, then eventually they just hope that they do see it at some point.
Cultivate yourself.
You see what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, so if you are experiencing these symptoms, or what they call symptoms, all it is just your spiritual awareness is rising. See, the spirit is bigger than the physical body. Your spiritual self can grow beyond the physical body to the point to where you can no longer. I mean, damn, how long does it take when you fill water up to the brim? If you get a container and you put water in, eventually you keep pouring water into that bucket, it's gonna overflow. So your spirit is the water. and your body is that bucket. How long, how eventually you would not be able to contain this God energy within. You can't trap a powerful entity in a container and expect not that entity or that powerful entity not to bust out that mug eventually. So even when you read, and bro, and also y'all, those of you out there, what happened to metaphysically speaking? When you look at the scriptures with the story of Elijah or the story of Enoch, when you read in the book of Jashir about Enoch, how he was translated and he got to a godlike state. Even Elijah got to a godlike state to where he was picked up by a chariot or a UFO.
Mm.
Right. Why?
Right.
Because they were such on a high level of spiritual frequency that their God spirit could not contain. You can no longer contain the vessel anymore. So when you can no longer contain the vessel anymore, what happens? Even Christ himself was picked up in a chariot. He ascended, and then before his disciples, the 12.
Right.
He ascended.
The ascension of consciousness.
You see what I'm saying? So how long, so hold on, let me so with that being said, let me put my camera back on real quick, because I have to show this.
Go ahead, bro. I'll be right back.
All right. All right. So basically, just like this water, if I keep putting water into this container, eventually this water will overflow. So you need to understand that this physical body is only temporary to house something within, to harbor something within. So you need to understand that you harboring in this powerful energy, eventually it's gonna crack, it's gonna bust, and you're gonna bust out your shell. So just understand that. So if anybody got any questions, you can ask questions at this time about the lesson. You can ask any question you want pertaining to what was presented. Because I think that there's some deep information to go into. When you're dealing with the realm of this brain, this mind, when you're dealing with that, you'll see a lot of these things as manifestations of what's going on within. So the brother, he's about to go into another powerful presentation. The brother getting ready to go into his presentation. I don't know if you're gonna take a break real quick. Play some music.
Yeah, I can do that for the viewers. Those viewers out there. Share the link. We'll be going into part 2 of this video, building the cultivation of the 12 principles. And so yeah, I'm gonna play a little bit of music here and let you guys let the viewers get situated, and then we'll come back at the end of the song. And like I said, we appreciate the viewers out there. If you have any questions or comments, now would be the time to post them. And like I said, at the end of this, we'll have a question and answer. So those of you guys who want to hear your questions being answered live on this broadcast, we can answer them for you. Another thing I wanted to mention was, thank you guys for supporting us, watching these videos. We understand that they're a little bit longer, but those of you guys that are viewing in the live broadcast will get more out of it than per se those who view it after. But those who view it afterwards can also have the ability to go back, to pick a spot in, where they left off or whatever. And so, we're just bringing this information, and we appreciate those those of you guys that are tuning in to view it. So we're going to take a little intermission here, and we'll come back. So like I said, please share the link to your friends, have your family members come sit in the room with you and watch it. We greatly appreciate those of you guys who help support us, and that by means of sharing links, commenting, the questions, the the comments that we get, also the inbox messages that we get. We appreciate it. And so yeah, let's take the intermission, and we'll come right back. So let's see, I'm gonna play some of this music right here. Gotta keep on walking on the road to Zion. Strap up your roots like the belt of Orion. Deep thought of chemical change of hydrogen ions. Dreadlock reform got me looking like a lion. A rhyme so cold I'm balling like I'm Kobe Bryant. Moving sacred monuments, no illusions of the Mayan. Cosmic positions in the sky, Leo the lion. Transition dimensions like distant time zones. My mind is here, but you're gonna think my mind's gone. I feel the light within me coming out like a spion. Driving down the road in the lane of the speed zone. Overcome all the obstacles like I'm in the free zone. My thoughts so powerful, you're gonna think I'm King Kong. Don't give a fuck, cause I'm on a higher level than you on. Get your mind right, cause they acting under treason. Call me Bruce, sleeping on trucks, I'm playing ping pong. Sit and meditate, cultivate yourself to ping pong. Psychonaut traveling, I'm Armstrong. Spark up the sacrament, burn down Babylon. I'll sit with the beats and spit bars night long. Cultivate the cosmic forces, my life is prolonged. Taught myself Chinese, you're gonna think from Hong Kong. Like a shaman in the astral realm all year long. Keep your mind attuned and stay headstrong. You don't need religion to tell you right from wrong. Let your mind flow, cosmic force moving right along. Think I'm crazy, but you'll change your mind before long. If you're feeling the track, just come back and sing along. Like the ancestors, I'm building pyramids before I'm gone. Tires on the pavement, I just zoom right along. Coming through the cyphers like I'm a fucking cannonball. With some rain from the sky, so I wear my parasol. Inscribe the ancient messages on my mind like a stone wall. Knowledge flows through my veins like a waterfall. Get in the ring and throw you around like a rag doll. Spiritual consciousness, yeah, that's just protocol. Waking the God within, light up your third eyeball. Hitting the goals, I'm all star in football. Making all the touchdowns, yeah, I'm just too tall. I was born and raised in Wisconsin, call it Raytown. Solution of all the things that keep you in lockdown. Clear your mind, make it clean like a ghost town. Purify my mind to sunrise to sundown. The truth is, you can only suppress a man for so long. A real man will get back up if he falls down. Keep your spirits high on the square, never back down. Make them feel you when you get up, till it's fucking fireballs. Yeah, this is Lost Timotheos, High Priest of the Temple of the Fire. Yo, what up? Okay, so now this is part two to our presentation here, we're speaking about the inner child healing and the 12 principles of cultivation. And those of you guys who tuned into the first video that we made, and particularly we went over the introduction to this, what we are presenting here today, the metaphysical side of healing and cultivation. But also we went into the 12 principles of the body and how they related to the spiritual metaphysical cultivation. So today we're going to actually keep going further into this perspective. A lot of the things we covered earlier are going to be mentioned again here in another perspective. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Let's see. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. So the metaphysics of the mind.
Everything's good. I can see it full screen.
Okay, thank you. So the metaphysics of the mind, the temple divine, Ras Timotheos. So, you know, we already went over a lot of the things that have to do with the cultivation of the mind and things like that, the conscious, the subconscious mind, the kundalini, the different principles of the nervous system. But I'm going to bring the perspective of how one's experiences can be put in processed into the nervous system, which then from a shamanic practice perspective, we can go in and start to heal these things. So from a practical sense, how do you access this stuff? So I have a lot of things that I want to present, and I'm just going to try to take it slow and do it, step by step. And so, like I said, if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure you guys leave those in all of the aforementioned places where we can get back to you. So, the metaphysics of the mind. Now, define the mind. Firstly, it's important to understand that the mind itself is not a physical thing. It cannot be touched, seen, or materialistically understood. Rather, we can perceive the effects of the mind itself. So the mind itself is the metaphysical aspect of man's being. It is. It is the non-physical, incorporeal aspect of your being. The term mind has many meanings according to the different cultures in ancient times, though what is relative between them is that they have an understanding, or they understood that the mind itself was actually a product of the heart and the brain organs in unison. Now, this is not to say that the mind can be only confounded to the body, the brain and the body, the heart organs, but that they have a very big influence on the perspective of perception and consciousness. And the product of them was awareness, or what is termed consciousness, and is connected to the nervous system. So with this understanding, we should note that there are three main forms of the mind that are known. You have the conscious mind, the superconscious mind, and the subconscious mind. So meta mind. Meta meaning beyond, and mind meaning that incorporeal substance of being. So the metaphysical understanding of mind comes from the simple and conceptual definition. So mind, by the term mind, we mean the term God, the universal principle which includes all principles. God is the universal principle of causation, which includes all principles. Mathematics is a principle that in its field illustrates the exact let's put it this way. In mathematics, it shares the principles of the manifestations of the mind of man, or the God within man, the universal principle which includes all principles. The inexorable laws that are one with the manifestations of God or mind. So an understanding of God, or the universal mind, is the key to all scriptures and occult writings. Occult meaning hidden, or spiritual, mystical. In the story of creation, as told by Moses, which is metaphysically correct, all things were brought forth by what? God said. Or, metaphysically, the mind thought. So that's a powerful concept to understand when we're dealing with healing. We're dealing with the objective of the mind being that which is the causal principle of creation, of all things in creation. Specifically one's reality and how they see themselves and how they live within that. Because when you understand that the mind is a causal aspect then you can understand how to heal. Healing comes through the mind. So the mind thought, that's how things come into creation. The mind thinking. Thoughts become things. So an understanding of the mind and the creation as an aid in understanding how the universal mind creates, we can observe the action of our own mind, because we are the offspring of the one mind, and we bring it forth in like manner. So this, in the biblical sense, the son can do nothing of himself, but what he seeth the Father doing. For what things soever he doeth, these the Son also do it in the like manner. So this is also talking about in the principle of father and a child, or father and a son, but it's also in the principle of divine mind in man, and the will, or the spiritual son of man within. So your will cannot do anything that your mind does not see. And whatever the mind seeth, the son doeth in like manner, or your will do it in like manner, your willpower. So there's nothing but mind and thought. The principle and its mode of expression. And we read that again. There's nothing but mind and thought. The principle and its mode of expression. So mind is the principle, and thoughts are the modes of expression of the mind. So things made or externalized are simply the effects of themselves and of themselves, which would rather quickly pass away, because the effects are not the substance itself. Rather, they are effects of the substance, meaning they are temporary. But the mind and the thoughts are one and inseparable. There's no such thing as the mind and thought being separable from each other. Self-existent, going back to Amun-Ra. And ever active, the cause of all that appears. So I hope you guys are getting this concept. So the understanding of mind as a principle of principles, the principles of principalities, the principle of mind being that the father of the 12 disciples, or the 12 principles revolving around the soul aspect of being. So the principle is the fundamental truth. Truth is light. So the divine principle is the fundamental truth in the universal sense, or as pertaining to God, the divine mind. It is the underlying plan by which spirit, or divine mind, God, moves in expressing itself. The oversoul of this planet, which works in its way into expression through the logos, representing Jesus, representing the word made manifest. Logos, a word made manifest. So as we can see, I'm trying to take this slow. As we can see, the mind is that which creates thought. Inseparable, but is the word made manifest. The mind is God. Man is not God. Man has the mind. Therefore, man has God within him. Man is a human being, a physical, corporeal being, temporal. But the God within him, that's a different story. God immanent in the universe is the great underlying cause of all manifestation, the source from which form proceeds. When you look at the word information, you have the process of form, which means the formation or the geometric pattern of the vibrational frequency of that light, which comes into formation, or ation, the process of coming into being, the process of. So information. You're dealing with mind and thoughts, which actually ultimately come into being. So although this principle is formless, it is that by which all things or all form is produced. So we're talking about the mind coming into existence, the mind producing itself. When you see the cars, the watch, a TV, the roads, where did those things come from? It was a thought in someone's mind. But when you look at nature and you ask yourself, where did the rivers come from? Where did the trees come from? Where did the mountains come from? If you answered the divine mind of the universe, then you're onto something. So I'm not speaking about some man standing in the sky somewhere. Like I said, man is human, but he has mind within him. He has God within him. So the principle is the I am of every man. When you say I am, like the brother was speaking before in the video, you say I am. That is the principle of yourself. The core root of your being is the I am. Now, whatever you say after that is your will of what your I am is, or what you want your I am to be. So the principle is the I am of every man, the mind. Ruler of that mind is what is termed the Lord. So as the principle of music moves through tones, so does the principle of mind move through ideas. A word is spoken thought or idea. Therefore, God, as creative mind, moves through the expressed thought of divine mind, referred to in the scripture as the word of God, manifestation of thoughts. So basically, the idea of Christ is just nothing more than an idea in consciousness, that which allows you to be related to a higher substance, a higher source of being, going beyond your physical self. So let's talk about the states of mind, consciousness. The mind is the seat of perception of all of things that we can see, hear, and feel, touch, taste, smell, so on and so forth. The perception. It is through the mind that we see the manifestation of the earth, the sky, of music, of art, in fact, of everything. The underworking of thought, working in and out through the cell and the nerves, weaves into one harmonious whole with many modes or moods or states of mind, which we call reality and our lives. 3 phases of the mind, which actually indicate this. You have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and the superconscious mind, called the Lord in the biblical sense. Now I'm giving you the metaphysical properties of this. So the superconscious mind transcends both the conscious and subconscious phases of the mind. The harmonious working together of these 3 seemingly separate minds. Remember, mind is not a physical thing, but it is indeed existing. So the harmonious working together of these 3 seemingly separate minds is necessary to bringing forth the latent possibilities of man. The latent possibilities of man. I want you to dwell on what that might be. The latent possibilities of man. It says the harmonious working together of these 3 seemingly separate minds is necessary to bring forth the latent possibilities of man. So we're talking about a cultivation here. Let's speak about the conscious mind. The conscious mind, the mind that takes or the mind that makes one know one's mental operations in state of consciousness. So that phase of mind in which one is actively aware of one's own thoughts. So the mind through which man establishes his identity. So the conscious mind operates through these functions. It's sequential, logical, and linear, thinking, awake, and deliberate, carries out cognitive functions, seeks the solutions, and tries to understand the situation and the problems, is aware of the now, and outcome orientated. It's only interested in the results, i.e., in cause and effect. So that is the conscious mind. Now, what is the understanding of the subconscious mind? The subconscious mind is the memory mind. Memory crystallized into function and form. It is the home of our habits, the storehouse of the past thoughts and experiences which we overcome and undertake, in which we call life. So it carries on all the bodily functions such as circulation, breathing, digestion, and so forth. So we are not conscious of what goes on in that process, in those processes, but the divine intelligence works perfectly in all of them unless man interferes through ignorant thinking. But divine intelligence works perfectly in all of them unless man interferes through ignorant thinking. Well, let's think. What is the ignorant thinking? It's all the negative thoughts. And when I say negative, I'm meaning particularly speaking about those thoughts which interact in a destructive manner on the biological function of man's body and metaphysical body. So the work of overcoming is carried on largely in the subconscious mind. All past thinking must be redeemed in the whole man, the consciousness and the subconscious, brought into harmony of the Christ consciousness, or an energy which man can cultivate himself or in himself or herself. This Christ consciousness is the higher awareness of your true self, of the primordial essence of being. So the spiritual light body is what we're speaking about. And I'm going to read a little passage out of Divina Sapientia, the Divine Experience, also written by me last year when I was going through particular states of understanding. And in this chapter, I specifically went over the spiritual light body. So the spiritual light body is created out of the inspiration of universal creative source energy, which has been manifested into the body temple. So this is speaking about the affirmations of truth of self, or the God self within. Out of the realization of the divine spark, out of that thought comes that change manifested into the body temple. So we're speaking about inspiration, or an involution of spiritual thoughts and consciousness. The involution, which then brings about the evolution. So man and woman becomes the priest or the priestess when they have built this body through spiritual rebirth and regeneration. The universal creative substance exists as spirit and is incorporated as mind through the intelligence of itself, which then manifests itself as a lower frequency of light and sound, forming as physical matter. So when I say body, I mean the spiritual rebirth, the bringing forth the laws of the divine mind into man's being. This is the process of divine information coming into manifestation, forming into or inspiring the mind, and then evolving as being in physicality as action or behavior. So what we're speaking about here is thoughts, which comes into 3-density formation and regenerative power of the God within, the Allah man within, the Allah man within, the elements within. So consciousness is the universal life substance expressed within all living things. Consciousness produces things that are involved through perceptive stimuli on the senses and imprinted into the mind as thoughts and ideas. And if you really want to get into the metaphysics, thoughts and ideas themselves are substances of the God within, of this Allah principle, or Allah within, this El force within. So the thoughts then become lowered into physical form and produced things. So though they are produced, they are experienced through action and reaction, or behavior in the form of spoken word, dance, the so on and so forth. The rituals we do on a daily basis, whether we perceive them as rituals or not. But the cultivation of the 12 principles within is based on the inner ritual of life, the inner ritual of the cosmic life within. That's what we're speaking about. Building a spiritual body. Man and woman must become aware of the divine nature of self through working with the self to unite with the higher nature of self. So this is the cultivation of self towards the divine mind. So man and woman must incorporate divine spiritual thoughts into consciousness. This incorporation builds an understanding through complete firsthand experience. That's what I'm speaking about. Complete firsthand experience. Not something intellectual. Complete firsthand personal experience with the universal substance within self. And also the ultimate realization of the higher self. This is what is termed as divina sapientia, or the divine understanding, divine wisdom. So we're talking about the gnosis, or the knowledge, the spiritual knowledge, wisdom, which goes beyond the intellectual faculty of the mind. The actual union with this Allah, God principle within. The union between the lower self and the higher self. So the priest realizes that the light body is beyond the consciousness of man and woman. The priest sees or perceives and knows, cognitive, through a relationship with the universal creative source. This is your intuition. This is you knowing that you're a spiritual being. So the light body is the higher self, or the spiritual thoughts in the mind out of first-hand personal experience with the God, Allah, El principle within. And out of that, you build your belief and your faith and all of that. So this is the constant realization of the divine within. This is what I mean by cultivating the relationship. You have to cultivate your realization of the divine within. This is an experience. The light body is the higher self. So it's experiencing this light body. The light body is the higher self. The higher self is the king or king and the queen in the kingdom of the spiritual warriors. Let's talk about the higher self in the principles, the 12 faculties of man, the spiritual warriors, the titans. That's why there's 12 titans of the Greek mythology, representing the 12 spiritual warriors. So the higher self exists before the physical body and sense of self. The higher self is the real sense of self. So before the loss of spiritual understanding. So the priest understands that the universe becomes aware of itself through the realization of the ultimate truth of the higher self. So the awareness of the Allah, the Ras, the true nature of your universe, your innerverse. Now I'm speaking about this realization through perception, firsthand personal experience. When we speak about the alteration of consciousness, we're speaking about the mode of the priest in which he uses to change his mind towards the divine, change his mind towards the higher self in the sense of cultivation. So the Ras is a divine mind, or the La, or the masculine and feminine divine principles of self. Allah. The God within, the divine mind. So the masculine and feminine principles then could be described as the love or the wisdom principality, the heart and the mind, which represents your soul. The Heru, the Osiris, the Hermes, the Shiva, the Tahuri, the Moses, the Vishnu, the intelligence, corresponding to the Isis, the Ma'at, the Mary Magdalene, the Parvati, the Lakshmi, the Sati, the Aphrodite aspect of yourself. So we're speaking about the inspiration of the masculine and feminine principles of the mind and the heart, the cultivation of your mind and your heart. The higher self and the spiritual body are created out of the same frequencies of that of the universal love and wisdom, and is unconditional in its nature. The higher self is felt when one has divine inspiration and knows a spiritual reality and can affirm the truth to that reality. So wisdom here is specifically divine in nature, and it cannot be accessed through ordinary states of consciousness, and is transpersonal. So it's beyond who you personally think you are. And we're speaking about a religious mystical experience, not something that you say, oh, well, I had this experience. No, this is something that is life-changing. A religious mystical experience is what you seek to have out of raising your kundalini and doing all the work. Not to just say, oh yeah, I raised the kundalini. Because really, who gives a fuck if you're not cultivating your inner self? And even if you are cultivating your inner self, you know what I'm saying? So it's talking about accessing the experience of the God self within you. This is where the true religion comes from. But see, religion doesn't deal with the access of actually communicating with the God within you. It's about going outside of yourself and looking outside of yourself for a God outside of you, for a mind outside of you. Where what I'm telling you is, from a priestly perspective, is that the God is within you. And to have to communicate with the God is to communicate with your higher self. So when self is united with the higher self, a state of transcendent knowing is experienced and universally expands the awareness of the observer or the priest, the one who is being initiated for that matter. The spiritual light body is symbolic of the truth and reality of life in the body temple. It is an expression of the universal life force in three-density formation. So you're talking about the light of Allah, the light of the El-La principle. The element is the same thing within yourself that you have to cultivate and access. And we're speaking about the transcendent knowing or knowledge or states of gnosis out of the spiritual acts of what is deemed worship, or identifying oneself with the spiritual aspect of the universe, and meditation or going within, and prayer, which is, I'm not speaking in a religious sense, but I'm speaking about prayer in the sense of a mantra, an affirmation. So this is not about bowing down to any type of primordial force. It's about realizing the primordial force that exists already within the body and interfacing with that and creating and building a temple body. So the spiritual light body represents a holistic view of truth and knowledge, not just intellectual knowledge. This knowledge is esoteric. Yes, I said it. It is esoteric. It is hidden. It is beyond your limited, ordinary, materialistic understanding. It is transpersonal, and the way it is understood cannot be interpreted by everyone in the same way. So the spiritual body represents divine wisdom, and the level of understanding is dependent upon the state of awareness of the observer. So the spiritual light body is built upon the pillars of a pure heart and pure understanding and of pure universal being. Mind, body, and spirit. Overstanding and understanding. So the spiritual body is an idea held in the mind, in the consciousness of the priest. When man and woman enters into the temple or the spiritual body, the awareness of this spiritual body, they take upon a specific mode of mind and being, which is essentially based on the spiritual perspective of interacting between the mind and body of spirit. So spiritual body is made up of divine essence of life, which manifests into being, physical form, as a soul in the psyche. The psyche means the soul, or the psyche means the breath. So the soul is then expressed as the mind, and then as being, or action and reaction, behavior, emotions, thoughts. So the formation is the building up of thoughts in formation. So wait, let me read that again. The formation is the building up of thoughts or information, and thoughts which have been lowered into a range of perception in the 3D density form and are formulated out of the substance of the mind. Thoughts, ideas, beliefs, emotions, all things coming into being. The physical organs are the musical instruments that are played within the body temple. 12 major physical organs are the 12 major musical instruments which are played in the body temple. The organs played in the body temple for the spiritual music to be expressed as inspiration of universal life substance. So the spiritual body is then created out of the transcendental perception of the ideas which are within man and woman as priests. So that's why you must cultivate a state of awareness, is cultivate a state of spiritual knowing. It is known that the great powers that hold the universe together and the cosmos together, these various forces were also found on the earth and also identified in the human body. The sum total of all in the universe, which is all of the same forces, and that which we identify as the universal creative substance, or that which we call God. And I'm going to call it divine mind. So matter is comprised out of the elements, elements, the process of formation, or the process of being El or La, which El is a God force. And La is just the feminine principle of that God force. So, matter is comprised out of the elements in the cosmos. And the cosmos is a manifestation of the mind of the universal substance in three-density form. Human beings manifest in the flesh and consciousness of its own existence through man and woman, or the womb man. We carried this experience of the three-density form into higher realms upon ascension. And it's through the earth, the mother womb, where we find the new child of life, the birthing of a new seed of God, new seed of the divine mind, of the inner God, the inner Allah principle in spirit and in flesh. So the child growing outwards from his center and through his mother, through the earth, can return to his center, where he trains his mind and body and soul to bring about change in the universe, change within himself, and change within the consciousness of man and woman within the universe as a whole. You, the ones listening, the priests, must transcend ordinary consciousness to higher states of perception and experience life from a universal perspective for the evolution of one's endeavors of unifying with the higher self of the universe, the divine mind. So the spiritual body is made up of 12 centers where each organ is present within the body temple. These organs are in unison with the 12 constellations, also known as the 12 zodiac signs in the cosmos around the earth, and with the addition of the sun making the 13th star, or the 13th star codes. The priest understands that his or her body, the priest and the priestess understands that his or her body is a representation of the universe from a microcosmic perspective. There are also 12 specific cranial nerves, or nerve endings that represent the ordination of the 12 star figurations within the skull of man and woman. When man and woman are the priests, they become the 13 star figurations representing the divine nature of the universal life force energy within the 12 centers of consciousness. The spiritual centers make up the spiritual body and involve the spiritual substance within the body temple. The 12 centers within the body are balanced through etheric energy known as chi or prana, blah, 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 from the breath or the inspiration. Inspiration, respiration, to respire or respire means to breathe. To inspire means to breathe in the life of God. Divine thoughts. Okay, so these centers are balanced through the kundalini, which stimulates all of the nadi points within the body, which stimulates all of the nadi points, which then become illuminated, and then you become the illuminated one, or what they call illuminati. So you illuminate your nadis and you become the higher self. You become the 12 centers of man, balanced through etheric energy. So the energy that stimulates the spiritual pathways is found through the combination of organic material found on the planet Earth. Due to the position of the Earth in the solar system, the plants take in most of the universal light radiating from the universe, as well as gives the priest, when we eat the plants, the inner light needed to evolve spiritually through a universal state of awareness. Now, eating is not just a physical thing, it's also a mental thing. You eat when you take in thoughts. You drink when you take in thoughts or emotions. So the spiritual body gives the priest 13 levels of perception and understanding, and that's what we're going to be getting into, that 13th level of perception and understanding. And really, the 13th is the highest level, which is the understanding of your own self, the soul. Whereas these other 12 principles are just realizing the 12 principles of yourself. You must realize that there's one more principle, and that is the soul, the deepest aspect of yourself. And when we're speaking about healing, we're speaking about going into this, this 13 level of perception and understanding of self. So let's move forward here in the slides. I went off reading from Divina Sapientia, a book that I wrote when speaking about the priest in his priestly state of consciousness. So let's talk about the qualities of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is intuitive, carrying out the spontaneous processing, the domain of creation, the embodiment of thoughts, ideas in the form of behavioral patterns, the domain of emotions, the seat of memory, holds resources of past and present experiences, and provides information or solutions to issues of past and present and possibly the future time. In charge of one's whole experience, and it represents all learning, behavior, and change. Change. This is the subconscious mind. So the superconscious mind. The superconscious mind is a state of consciousness based on true ideas, on an understanding and a realization of spiritual truth. Where there is no vision, the people cast off restraint. Proverbs 29:18. Men must see beyond matter, and material possessions or civilization will perish from the earth. Why is that? If the superconsciousness or the Christ mind, the higher self, is not developed, the people would destroy one another in insane warring for the fleeting things of the world. What do we see now today? When so even just think about what is that date? Black Friday, right? Where everybody goes out and shit. You hear cases where people die from getting trampled because of the warring for the fleeting things of the world, So people are destroying one another in this insane warring for the things of this world. And things of this world are not forever. So preaching the glories of the heaven will not reach a mind. Let me read this again. This is for the preacher chickenfoot out there, and so on and so forth. Preaching the glories of heaven will not reach a mind that has no capacity for the enjoyment of heaven. We already see this when people go out and buy material things and they trample one another just to buy something material, and also those preaching the outer material things with no inner understanding. Those preaching a God to come without no inner understanding of the God within that's already there. So the connection between the superconscious mind and the conscious mind is established within by meditation, by going into the silence, and by speaking the word of truth. What is the word of truth? It's written on your heart. The law is written on in the heart of, in the subconsciousness of man's being. Anytime you see the word heart, it's representing the subconsciousness of man's being. So the subconsciousness is the superconsciousness is man's only sure guide through a maze of the creative processes. So by trusting and of the infallibility of this guide, man opens himself to the inspiration of the Almighty, the all-power, the all-force of the might of the universe.
And I'm glad that you touched I just want to add something real quick.
Hmm.
I'm glad that I'm glad that you touched on the part where the heart is where is where you lie, because um even Brother Panic was going into like the heart space and how that's the core of your being. That's
Yes.
that's the truth of who you are within.
Hmm.
That's why when you read the scripture, they talk about it's a man thinking his heart.
Hmm.
Because the heart, that's the core of your being,
Yep.
and that can reveal a lot of things about you and the truth about who you are, what you are. In the heart space. So the heart is a vital point. The heart is actually the most important part of the whole seven.
Hmm. Yep.
The heart is very important. So I just
That's
want to put that out there.
Yeah, the heart is actually the middle point or the middle grounds between the higher and the lower self. So if you can't cultivate the inner understanding of the heart, the intelligence of the heart, you think you're going to cultivate the inner intelligence of you being God on earth? Shit, get out of here with that. We have to be able to cultivate the heart first. But before you get to the heart, you got to cultivate your lower deeds, your lower thoughts, your lower emotions, your lower actions. So to even reach the heart center, to even reach the law that's written on the hearts of man, and therefore he will know that I am God, or whatever it says in that scripture. Um, you know, it's speaking right to it though. The fact that we must cultivate ourselves, the knowledge of self, before we can even cultivate an understanding of the earth, of the universe. And so we should know this by going within into our hearts, where all of these things are written. And like I said, in order to get there, you have to clean away all those negative thoughts and emotions. So um, it's by, like I said, meditation, going into the silence, or the idea of no self. Speaking in Buddhism, the idea of no self, letting go of those things. Uh, Also, I remember Panic speaking about the idea of letting go of um, these expectations we have for others, like and actually realizing that they're human. Well, everybody's human, so you have to give up our expectations that you expect things to be this way or that way, and to actually realize the truth of the matter. And to in order to even cultivate the heart, you have to be able to let go of the lower self, the lower processes of self. So by trusting um to this higher aspect of ourselves, we are opening up to that inspiration, or we breathing in, or we are taking in mind and thoughts and ideas into our mind of the almighty, or that which is beyond and all powerful of our existent being. We're going to go to the next slide here. So consciousness, the sense of awareness, of knowing, the knowledge or realization of any idea, object, or condition, the sum total of all ideas accumulated in and affecting man's present being, the composite of ideas, thoughts, emotions, sensations, and knowledge that makes up the consciousness, the subconsciousness, and the superconscious phase of mind. It includes all of mind, all of man, all of mind, man is mind, all of mind and all of man is aware of his spirit, soul, and body. The material consciousness, now this goes back to what I was just speaking on a little bit beforehand, is a state of mind based on belief in the reality of materiality, i.e., just look at the Western civilization in science, is a state of mind based on belief in reality of materiality, or things as they appear, the effects of the mind rather than the cause, right? So is that why when you go to the hospital, why they don't deal with the effects of the cause, or they deal with the effects of the cause, the symptoms of the diseases, rather than dealing with the cause of the disease? They don't want you to change your lifestyle, because knowing if you change your lifestyle, you probably won't have those physical diseases anymore. because changing a lifestyle is not only changing the mind and the thoughts, but also the behaviors and the actions. Whereas if you're just treating the symptoms, you're only treating the thoughts and ideas of what one has about the experiences that they're going through, and you're really not doing anything but adding a band-aid to a leaking hose. You see what I'm saying? You're adding a bandage that's really not going to help to something that is a leaking shit. Now it's probably, a spurting, like a fucking a mountain with lava coming out of it, right? We're in that state of existence here in 2016. We're at the state of lava bursting out of the mountains. In a sense, we're trying to put band-aids over this gaping hole or this gash, right? And so this is the idea of how Western materiality and the Western material thinking is concerned when dealing with metaphysical problems. So in the conscious sense, a mental state, a sense consciousness is a mental state that which believes in and acts through only the senses. So now this is where we deal with the spiritual stuff. To raise out of sense consciousness, we determine to return to the conscious oneness with the divine mind or God, whatever you want to call it. Whatever religion you want to deem to, if they're not doing this, raising you out of sense consciousness, raising you out of the awareness of your senses, and raising you to the level of Christ consciousness or the oneness of you with the God force, whether it's within you or outside of you. What I'm trying to tell you, it's within you. But if they're not trying to raise you to that beyond the level of sense consciousness to determine the conscious oneness of you with your creator, what you deem as the creator, as the Christ says, I will arise and go to my Father, or I will arise and go to the divine mind, which happens every day when you go to sleep. But a lot of us are pushed away because we have this religious sense, because we're looking outside of ourselves, praying and bowing down to shit that influences our life, of course, if you bow down and pray to that shit. But it has no power over you, and when you recognize your power, your God force, your Godhood, your Christ conscious childhood. And that's what we're talking about. Getting out of sense consciousness, or the lower functions of the senses, and coming into realizing that the senses can be spiritualized, and that out of that you can have the magnificent powers of your mind, going beyond just 10% of what you normally think and be and exist in, and using that 90%. So like I'm saying, we're talking about cultivation here. So the metaphysics of consciousness of minds. Consciousness is our knowing what we know, or knowing that which we know. Anything that you think you know is your consciousness, or an act of your consciousness. So the phase of knowing by which we take cognizance, when we cognize things, we recognize things of our existence and of our relation to what we call the environment. That's consciousness. So the environment is made up of the ideas held in the mind and objectified. So the physical environment around you is nothing more than an objectified view of the thoughts which relate in your mind. So if you change the thoughts that relate in your mind to how you view your environment, guess what? You change your fucking environment just by how you view it in your mind. Mental imagery. This is the power we're speaking about here. So the nature of the ideas upon which consciousness is formed gives character to it. The subconscious mind, or the subjective consciousness, the inner way of seeing and knowing who you are, is the sum of man's past thinking. You only know who you are because of what you thought you were before in your past. That's the only way you were going to think of who you are now. So if you want to change the way you see yourself, it's by going through the past programmings and changing that in order to see yourself today in a different light. This is what we're talking about, cultivation. This is the process of your magical practices and all of that shit. It's about going into your past thinking, your past thoughts, and changing that shit especially if it's not getting you the results or the life in actions and behavior that you are thinking about, you know. So it may be called memory. The subconsciousness, the subconscious sometimes acts separately from the conscious mind, for instance, in dreams and in its works carrying out bodily functions, such as breathing and digestion. So the subconscious mind has no power to do original thinking by itself. It acts upon what is given to it through the conscious or the superconscious mind. So that's what we're working with here, the conscious mind. Yeah, we're working with the subconscious mind, but how to penetrate the subconscious mind with the superconscious or conscious thought. So all of our involuntary or automatic activities are of the subconscious mind. They are the result of our having trained ourselves by the conscious mind to form certain habits and to do certain things without having to center our thoughts upon them consciously. So the superconscious mind then is the Christ consciousness or the spiritual consciousness. It is the state of consciousness that is based upon the true ideas. True meaning the light ideas, the illumined ideas, meaning the knowledge of yourself in union with this divine mind, union with God. So upon the understanding and realization of spiritual truth, this union, the union that mind and thoughts are not separate from one another, the union that your environment is what you think, who you are, the environment of your body is what you think, the atmosphere of your body is what you think. So what are thoughts then? Thoughts are a product of thinking. Duh. Well, what is a product of thinking? What is that thought? Well, thoughts are a mental vibration or impulse. But mental vibration, going back to what the brother was speaking about when we speak about cycles per second and of the beta, the alpha, the theta, and the delta waves of the brain, the cycles per second of the brain waves. We're speaking about the vibration or the impulse of what's going on in your consciousness, what's going on in your thinking and in your mind. So each thought is an identity that has a central ego around all of which the elements revolve. So thoughts are capable of expressing themselves. They come into being. That's why you have everything that you see in your physical world. So thoughts are capable of expressing themselves. Every thought clothes itself in a life form according to the character given it by the thinker. So when you think a thought, you give each thought a clothes to wear or a character to have for other people to view those thoughts in that like character. So that's why when you say, well, something negative, you can view that in your reality, and so can others. Why? Because you have given character to your own thoughts. You have clothed your own thoughts in a life form according to the character by which you think it is to be. So the form is simply by the conclusion of your thought. So whatever the formation is. So for example, I'm a book writer. I have 15 books that I've produced myself out of my own mind. Now, the expression of that thought would be the books that you can see physically, that other people can read and go into and do their own research. Now, what is that a product of? It is a product of the mind becoming a manifestation as far as thoughts, emotions, and so on and so forth in a physical form. And now it's part of my environment. So one of the axiomatic truths of metaphysics is that thoughts are things. We just mentioned that. The mind of man marshals its faculties and literally makes into living entities. Listen to this. The mind of man marshals its faculties, the 12 principles, and literally makes them into living entities, the deities within yourself, the forces of nature, the nectar, the gods, the goddesses, makes into living entities. The thoughts that entertains is also a foregone conclusion. The word things expresses poorly the active and very vital character of thoughts to which the mind gives life substance, and intelligence. So the very fucking language we use to describe everything on this goddamn planet and everything in which our planetary existence we experience has to go through a filter which we call language, which the word expresses things poorly, the active and vital character of the very thoughts in the mind that we want to express. So even the language that you use to describe yourself is detrimental to your physical, emotional, and mental health. This is powerful, guys. Now, if we compare our creative thoughts with them, we get an inferior conception or concept of the marvelous ability of our mind in its creative capacity. Thought is controlled by the right use of affirmation and denial. Now we're getting into what the whole Bible is representing. The affirmation and denial of spiritual truths. So now what does religion do then? You're right if you thought, well, it makes you believe in these spiritual truths instead of affirming or denying a spiritual truth. There's a difference. So it is the power by which the mind is able to accept and reject a reality in which it deems you to live in. This is powerful, man. So this is the power to create your own life in the way you mentally view it, mentally see it, feel it. So this power of the mind is the I am. And it is through the avenue of expression of the I am, or represented by the Jesus character in the Bible, the New Testament, because the New Testament deals with affirmation and denial. This is the whole metaphysics of it. So, and they thought control, dominion, and mastery are obtained when you have the power of this I am. Thoughts are controlled by the mind through its power to say yes and no. To hold a thought, listen to this right here. This is powerful. This is your magical shit right here. This is your magical practices. To hold a thought is to affirm or to deny a certain reality or a certain proposition, both mentally and audibly, until the logic of the mind is satisfied and a spiritual realization is attained. So to hold a thought is the same thing as to manifest that thought which you hold in your mind. So the thought has a thought atmosphere. This thought atmosphere is the surrounding mental climate created by each person in accordance with its character of his thinking. So the thoughts of negation or negative thoughts build an antagonistic and discordant atmosphere. So thoughts of love and prosperity, of health and faith create a harmonious mental atmosphere. Try it. Go a week thinking some negative shit and see where you end up. Now and then, once you get out of that hole, go think a week. Go a week and think about some positive stuff, and see what I want to say hole you find yourself into, because you might not even find yourself into any holes. You might be finding yourself digging yourself out of those holes that you've dug. So you also have a thought center, a collection or aggregation of ideas in the mind. Now, thoughts of one kind are attracted to another. This is the whole idea of your law of attraction. See, many people talk about the law of attraction, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about in the sense of metaphysics, where we deal with the thought center, which is a collection or aggregation of the ideas in the mind revolving around that one thought, which you need in order to manifest anything. You need a building of these thought energies in order to build a bigger energy, which can then be lowered into physical manifestation, 3-density form. We're talking about densities of vibrations. So a collection of or aggregation of ideas in the mind. Thoughts are of one kind, are attracted to another, form in consciousness, group themselves in the body. So not only do they group themselves in the mind, they group themselves in the body and build organs. 12 major organs, 12 deities, 12 principles, okay, through which they manifest. For example, love manifests through the heart. So let's not get this stuff twisted here. It deals with the mind. The mind is all, everything is mental, and we're going to get into that. So the thought power is the moving force within an idea that gives it expression. All structures are built by thought power. Let me read that again. All structures, all information, the process of coming into formation of an energy source. All structures are built through thought power. This power is transmitted from mind to mind and from mind to body in all living forms, the collective conscious part of ourselves, whether it's unconscious or conscious or super conscious. Because you best believe if we have a collective unconsciousness, we have a collective consciousness, which is the reality that we share today. Those of you that are viewing this video right now, we're interacting with the idea of the collective consciousness, where there is a collective unconsciousness, and that is called the dream world, where we can communicate to the dreams as well. So mind cannot be just located to the body. Thought cannot just be located to the brain. The moving force within the idea gives it expression. So all structures are built by thought power. Any structure that you can think of is built by a thought first. This power is transmitted from the mind to mind and from mind to body in all living forms. So thought vibrations are then energy sent out by the force and power of thought. All who are in like planes of consciousness with the thinker of the thought receives these thought energies. So in this way, telepathic messages are sent and received. That's why you can heal somebody that is 50,000 miles away right now, just by thinking or holding on to a thought in mind in relation to that person. So why do you think we're dealing with magic here? This is magic. Life is magic. But most people don't accept it because their perception of magic is thrown off. The whole idea of that you can think and bring those thoughts into existence is fucking magic. But you know what else is magic? All those past experiences that you felt and you experience now today as illnesses, you can change them. How? Through the process of magic, thought, magical thinking. Not in the sense of, oh, I'm going to think about some magical shit today. No, magical thinking in which you're actually going into your own mind and changing those things that have been there that are causing discord and destruction in your life. So there is a law of spirit that equalizes all forces generated by the mind. Now, this is important. This law is the keeping of divine principle, and there is neither success nor safety in using thought energies without its guiding wisdom. So you can think about anything, but there is a spiritual aspect that equalizes all forces generated by the mind, and that is the principle that knowing that you are one with the divine mind, really. The metaphysical concept that when you are one with something, you are that. You become that. So when you hear someone, well, I want to become one with nature, or want to become one with God, what they're really saying is, I am one with God. I am one with nature. So become one with your higher self. Become one with the God within. So emotions then. Emotions are undisciplined or uncontrolled forces, i.e. in the form of thoughts. So subnormal or supernormal activity of mental or physical forces, an excitement of the feelings. So when you excite the feelings, or you excite the mind in terms of the sense perception, then you are ultimately exciting the feelings or emotions. And if you can control the emotions, you can control the bodily functions. If you control the bodily functions, guess what? It's called mind control. Now, it is found that for each bad emotion, there is a corresponding chemical change. Now, this is important to note because your emotions and your thoughts have a chemical correspondence in the physical body. If these thoughts and emotions are energy, vibrational frequencies, they have an influence on our chemical change in the body tissues, then you got to know what you're thinking about and how that affects your body. And that's what we're here to show you, is that when you think a thought, it corresponds to chemical change in the body tissues, in which either causes life-depressing illness, or poisons, toxins in your body, or counterwise, every good emotion makes a life-promoting change. So if you're actually in the position now and you wonder why your life is going the way it is, in a negative sense, it's because you have negative emotions corresponding to chemical changes within your body, which is ultimately a product of your subconscious mind, subconscious programming in the mind, in order for you to work in the reality from the mind in which you believe that you live in. I know it's a complete circle, and the whole idea is getting the fuck out of the circle. Now, next slide. So the nerves, metaphysical meaning of the nerves, the fluid, nerve fluid is a spiritual fluid. So your nerves, spinal nerve fluid, right? Oh, spinal column is what? Okay, the path to your spiritual enlightenment. Okay, so the nerve fluid within that spinal column is the spiritual fluid. Interesting stuff then, right? So the nerve fluid is a spiritual fluid that divine mind is propelling throughout man's whole being continually as an electromagnetic center. Ask yourself why all atoms and molecules are electromagnetic. Light is also a product of electromagnetic frequency called photons. Okay, there we go. Now we have an understanding that everything is interconnected. Why do all planets have electromagnetic frequencies? Either coming from them or protecting them from other electromagnetic frequencies, also known as radiation. So just giving the understanding now that there's many different ways that we can come about this. So this wonderful stream of nerve fluid finds its way over all the nerve centers in man's body temple, giving him the invigorating, steadying power of the inner chi kundalini, or what is known as the Holy Spirit. So the nerves are cord-like filamentous bands of nervous tissue that connect parts of the nervous system with the other organs of the body and conduct nerve impulses to or away from these organisms, and that's defined in Webster. So conduct nerve impulses, meaning vibrational frequencies of thought from one center of the body to another, or from one part of your inner universe to another. The nerves have been described as wires over which messages are sent to and from the brain. Every emotion and every feeling that is transmitted over the nerves to the brain is registered and translated into thought, which may be expressed through the spoken word. And I'm gonna just put it this way, because we're gonna be doing a presentation on the underworld and what that entails, and you will hear these things called the daemons or the daemons, also known as demons in another word. But this perspective of daemons represents these spiritual life forces. Now, how they relate to this is when it's describing that these nerves are conductors of spiritual nervous impulses to and away from these organs, just like I said about communicating from different parts of the body, or communicating different parts of the solar system, which is another word for the body, the universe, another word for the body. So basically you have spiritual faculties, which allows you to communicate with other spiritual beings in the sense of this idea of these invisible nerve centers that expand and connects everyone. That's where you get the idea of collective consciousness, collective unconsciousness, and collective superconscious mind. So, and the awareness that belongs to that is described by this metaphysical understanding of this nervous fluid that actually propels throughout electrical magnetic center to different parts of the body organ, or different parts of the bodily organ of the solar system, or of your body of light, or your 12 zodiac, the solar system, the great body of light. Your physical body is the solar system, or the great body of light, the great light body system. So now we have an understanding of what these nerves represent. Let's get an understanding of these 7 hermetic principles. Hopefully this video comes up. Okay. The 7 hermetic principles from the Kabbalion. The principle of truth are 7. He who knows these understandingly possess the knowledge before the wise. So hopefully you guys got a understanding of the 7 hermetic principles. And now these 7 hermetic principles are relating to the 7 principles of cultivation and cultivating yourself. So when you are able to tap into these 12 hermetic principles and understand them in the terms of metaphysical cultivation and healing, then you can get a better light and how to cultivate yourself in that sense. So I'm going to read a paragraph out of The Cosmic Breath of Light, again by Timotheos, Temple Divine, and particularly speaking about the initiates and their training in the arts. So initiates of early systems of this art had to enter in a phase of training in which one would become acutely aware of these primordial energies or primal energies of the reptilian level. So when we speak of the reptilian, you hear words, or you hear people talk about, oh, the reptilian beings and all this other crap. You know, the reptilian is speaking about the reptilian part of the brain, the subconscious part of man. The reptilian part of self is where most of your power exists. It is your nervous system. The energy in which is in your nervous system is called the reptilian. The reptile, the snake, the serpent, rising up the kundalini, or the 7 nervous centers of the brain and the spinal column. So when we get into this understanding, we have to learn to take things from their metaphysical as well as physical counterparts and be able to have a spiritual discernment between the two. Now, they would do this as a beginning stage of raising the serpent, or raising one's conscious primal energy, elevating one's thoughts through the breath, or setting up the pillar of Osiris, the Kundalini jet pillar. So this involves working with the body through metaphysical means. This allows one to release a variety of physical energies trapped lower states of thought. So when you have physical illnesses coming out of Kundalini work, this is this representation. Is a representation of the physical energies or trapped lower states of thought coming up. So, or obstructed chi flow or energy flow. So in the psychological terms, it is possibly involved in tapping into the archaic hidden subconscious memories and allowing one to identify with the netters, or the Elohim, the deities of nature, of snake or of reptile within. The second stage was learning how to raise the serpent energy. This is the raising of one's consciousness along the spine of the paleo-mammalian brain to that of the cosmic consciousness. The paleo-mammalian brain is the site of the midbrain and of the limbic system, and wraps around the reptilian brain. This part is the brain which offers one more adaptable and inventive intelligence, as well as many more openings to nature and function of reality. So the early basis of civilization exists with the paleo-mammalian brain. Trace memories of the archaic mammalian aspects of self is found in the species of prodigious preparations for partnership and procreation, which would give us the emotional development for the production and sustenance of a family, tribe, or society. The paleo-mammalian brain involves the limbic system, which is also the seat of emotions. The cranial endocrine gland serves this system of the brain. It is the course of sexual development, sleep, dreams, desire, pleasure, and pain. It is the seat for all emotions of human life, as well as the seat of intuition, the spirit, the soul. This part of the brain grounds our intelligence, which comes from the neocortex part of the brain system, which, when amplified, this part of the brain can be experienced as an inflation of our ego and a great amount of emotional compassion for willing one's way, or destructive charisma. So the third level, and actually the whole process of metaphysical cultivation, is to go beyond this ego or this destructive charisma. It's actually to take control of your reptilian brain and your mammalian brain, your mammalian aspect. These are primordial aspects of the brain which develop over time. So the third level of this process, spiritual development, is the activation of the paleo-mammalian brain, or the new mammalian brain. This, or also known as the cranial part of the brain. This gives one a deep sense of emotional compassion for all living and sentient beings. Bodhisattva is a state where one has an amplified, spiritualized limbic system. This is portrayed through many cultures and religious mythos. When one realizes that this power is used for the service of others rather than to have the power over someone else, that's when they realize this bodhisattva state. This is a state of mind where all things are non-dual, meaning all things are perceived as one essence. Union. Yoga means union. So this is where you get your idea of yoga from. Attaining a state of union in the mind, in the body, in the spirit. This is yoga, true. So nothingness, but yet the only thing. At this state, a deepened sense of knowing or awareness of compassion is experienced. At this state, in the ancient temples of Kemet, the initiates were given the scepter of Osiris to hold. The fourth level has to do with the neo-mammalian brain, or the neocortex, and the frontal lobes. These parts of the brains are the last parts to develop, though are 5 times larger than the 2 older brains. The neocortex, right and left hemispheres of the brain, each with its own capacities. The left is the temporal, linear, objective, analytical, language, and logic. The right being the visual, spatial, intuitive, subjective, and analogical mind or thought. These um, these brains work in unison to control all conscious thought and activities such as reason, will, analysis, logic, cultivation, creativity, and voluntary movements. When developed spiritually, one may experience a sense of altruism, empathy, identity, compassion, and also higher orders of love and harmony. The frontal lobes makes way for the development of visionary and higher mind activities. This is the part of the mind that can be entered into the realm of causality itself. The activation of this brain is activating enormous power of reflection, self-awareness, and conscious union with other functions, and its development allows integration with other brains. So, during deep states of meditation, contemplation, and breathing exercises, one may cultivate a sense of heightened activity. This part of the brain enters into a frequency of resonance with the higher orders of reality, or different aspects of life that we are not familiar with through our ordinary senses, i.e., going beyond the materialistic senses or the material sense consciousness. So, we enter into realms which are connected to the psyche, and possible doorway of the neurological system, which leads to the great archetypal center of existence. At this level, one has the capacity to tap into the source levels of reality, as well as access the sounds of spheres and see the architectures of creation through conscious experience. So now I'm going to play this video here that will describe a little bit more about how we can use these 7 principles uh, of the 7 hermetic principles for the process of cultivation and manifestation. Now, in terms of this, think in terms of healing yourself. How can you use these principles to heal yourself? So the question is, how can I use these 7 hermetic principles to heal myself?
These are the 7 hermetic principles of manifesting and creating. These principles are sometimes referred to as laws, and it's my opinion that these principles are so important to manifesting that I'm going to go ahead and leave this picture up for the duration of this video. And now I'm going to attempt to explain what these principles represent from a manifesting perspective in a way that anyone can understand. The first principle of manifesting is mentalism. Whenever you have a daydream or a fantasy, this is an aspect of mentalism. When we are incorporating this principle for the purpose of manifesting, you would be visualizing that which you want to create as if it's already happening.
Now, when he's speaking about daydreaming, you can also understand this in the magical perspective, imagination or visualization of the mind. But this whole idea of manifestation as well, particularly in the understanding that the mind is all, everything is mental. You have this understanding, but some may be looking at this and thinking in terms of the Judeo-Christianic perspective, where they're thinking a change in the mind, that's kind of weird, or to go in a dream state to then produce things, that's kind of weird. Well, see, the whole thing of our ancient ancestors and what they knew and what the sciences that they practices was the fact that it wasn't even about the physical shit that you see or that you realize with the whole spiritual practices. It was about the things that you didn't realize, the things that you couldn't see, the things that you can't perceive ordinarily. So when speaking about cultivation and growth, we have to rethink of how we view the mode of cultivation. So we have to rethink of how we view the modes of creation,
which you want to create as if it's already happening. You are visualizing it as if it's taking place right now. The second principle is the principle of correspondence. The old Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, also translates to as within, so without. The world around you is a reflection of the world inside of you,
and within
vice versa. Some modern pagan religions refer to this principle as the law of sympathy.
Now, when dealing with pagan, this word comes from a word that just means those who live in the countryside. So for those of you guys who are thinking, oh, this is a cult and have a negative meaning pertaining to the occult, which just means hidden, we're dealing with my ancient practices, my ancient sciences of my own ancestors. So I don't have anything to deal with some concept that is a later day concept coming from people who had to create a religion. We're not speaking about creating any type of gods or goddesses. We're talking about accessing the god or goddess within you already. And unfortunately, a lot of these principles have been used in negative forms throughout different systems or practices. Now, don't get me wrong, Christianity does use magical practices, but they only use the ones that they accept, and they deny all others. But just with the understanding that when you hear the words occult or paganism or these things, they don't really mean what you were brought up for them to emotionally mean to you now. They actually mean something totally different. So the whole idea of pagan and pagan thought is the act or idea that these are thoughts and ideas which relate to those who do not live within an ordinary mundane state of consciousness, those living in the countryside who may not live a life of those in the city. Okay, so it's just a way to understand this concept. So anytime you hear the word pagan or the occult, just means hidden, or that which is unseen to your normal eyes, or knowledge and awareness of things, particularly yourself, that exist beyond your ordinary awareness. And that's what we're talking about today. Knowing yourself beyond what you ordinarily know about yourself, and how to cultivate that. Oh.
And treat to as laws. And it's my opinion that these principles are so important to manifesting that I'm going to go ahead and leave this picture up for the duration of this video. And now I'm going to attempt to explain what these principles represent from a manifesting perspective in a way that anyone can understand. The first principle of manifesting is mentalism. Whenever you have a daydream or a fantasy, this is an aspect of mentalism. When we are incorporating this principle for the purpose of manifesting, you would be visualizing that which you want to create as if it's already happening. You are visualizing it as if it's taking place right now. The second principle is the principle of correspondence. The old Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, also translates to as within, so without. The world around you is a reflection of the world inside it, and vice versa. Some modern pagan religions refer to this principle as the law of sympathy. The third principle, the principle of vibration. When we are altering our mood from sad to happy, we are actually strengthening our vibration. We are amplifying. So when you are visualizing that which you want to create and are feeling the happiness as if it's truly taking place at this moment, we are elevating and amplifying our vibration, which will actually make it manifest much more quickly. The fourth principle, the principle of polarity. Everything on this physical plane has its polar opposite. And just like I've explained, when we change our mood from sad to happy, we are polarizing our emotion. We are altering it from one state to another. This is sometimes referred to as mental transmutation. We are changing our moods from one state to another, which is what transmutation means. It means to alter, to change from one state to another.
Inner alchemy.
The fifth principle, the principle of rhythm. Every situation you will encounter, every conversation that you have has its own natural rhythm, its own natural flow. By understanding the previous principles, you can alter that rhythm. You can alter that flow. If you want to go with the flow and just be, then that's fine. If you want to manifest and create, then you have to understand the previous principles to alter the natural rhythm that you are experiencing. The sixth principle, cause and effect. Every effect has its cause, and every cause its effect. When we throw a pebble into a pond, we see the ripples spread out. And that's what we're doing here. It's a metaphor for what we're trying to implement, a change. We want to have a ripple effect. The definition of magic is implementing a change in conformity with the will.
In my definition,
that change.
In my definition, the idea of magic is being able to impact and manipulate the subconscious aspect of the mind, the subconscious aspect of being, which ultimately have an effect on the conscious aspect of being. So that's just my understanding of magic.
Change by understanding the previous principles, primarily the principles of mentalism, correspondence, and vibration. The last principle is the principle of gender, which is just an understanding of duality, male and female. We all have masculine qualities within us. We all have feminine qualities within us. One obviously dominates the other, depending on whether you are an actual male or female. But understanding this duality, you can actually rise above the duality of masculine and feminine, rage, peace, good, evil. So, understanding mentalism, correspondence, and vibration, the first three principles, we are actually controlling the remaining four. And if your manifesting in the past has been less than successful, it's more than likely due to the fact that you have not implemented these principles of manifesting and creating, primarily mentalism, correspondence, and vibration. So I hope this has helped you understand the 7 principles of the Hermetic philosophy, which is the crux of the Hermetic philosophy.
Now, I hope you guys got something out of that. And that's the end of my presentations as far as my slides. But, you know, we can always keep going with our information here at the Temple Divine because, you know, we live this stuff. So it's really not too much for us to understand a lot of these principles and to speak on them. Let's see. I'm trying to get out of here. Okay. Okay, so you can see me now. Okay. So, yeah, just the understanding of cultivation, you know, we're dealing with something beyond the levels of ordinary consciousness. So when we're dealing with the cultivation in the metaphysical sense, we're dealing with things that might go beyond one's ordinary thought or perception towards these things. And so, you know, hopefully you guys got something out of this video that we shared today, out of this live presentation. And you know, we didn't really get any questions right now. You know, yeah, I can't see if we have any questions right now. Really don't see anything out here. Otherwise, we would have a question and answer. But I don't know. Are you still there, brother? You want to speak something? trying to figure out if you have any questions and answers. I'm about to go to our Facebook page, Temple Divine, and see if we got anything there. So if you guys have any questions or comments you guys want us to answer, please check it out. Okay, so as far as I can see, really don't have anything here. We will have stuff later though. So yeah, when you guys get your questions or comments you guys want to let us know, we'll get back to them. And we appreciate you guys tuning in and viewing this live broadcast. Yep. So yeah, we appreciate those of you guys that came in and sat through our presentation, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.